evening. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Could I just ask you all to sign the attendance register that Tony's walking around with now, then I think we're about ready to start. For those of you who don't know who I am, my name is Richard and I'm the chairman of the North East Regional Committee. I'll be assisted this evening with various other members from the committee, including Tony Ormond, who will be the timekeeper and taking a brief account of the minutes of the event. Before we start, I'd just like to say that the North East has tended to buck the trend in UKIP terms. I've been told that we have been the most successful region in the country over the last period of elections. And in May we did the best we've ever done, actually, in terms of getting people elected to the council. And just do we have any of our councillors with us? If so, would you please stand up? Will you come to the front, please? Yeah, there's more than that though. That's the Sunderland constituency, we've got 3. And then we had got 2 in Middlesbrough, 2 in Cleveland, Redcar and Cleveland, 1 in Hartlepool, and 5 on, how many on Town Council? 7? 7, yeah, which we now control with the independents, and having great fun. Trying to sort out 43 years of Labour misrule, trying to find out where they spent all the money. We did an audit and the auditors couldn't find what they'd done with £42,000 in 1 year. That's just a town council, can you believe it? 42,000. Anyway, and then we went on and we got the highest percentage of any region in the EU elections, which was very good. And then we also contested the Northern Tyne mayoral election, in which we got over 20,000 votes, and a big thank you to Hugh, who was our candidate. Hugh, well done, 40,000 votes. Of course, you all know that today is the election for the Police and Crime Commissioner for our area. Could I have a show of hands who's voted? Yeah, not many. I went to the polling stations before I came here. I was the 12th person today to vote. Yeah, we'll say no more about that. Maybe the candidates might. Okay, we're ready to go. We have 3 candidates with us today. We have an apology from Ben Walker. His partner's due to expect their baby any moment now, and he felt he had to be a good dad and be with her, which is so we'll fully understand. But he's given me a statement to read out, so with the permission of the other candidates, I will do that at the end. The format of the evening, as I said in my email, each candidate will make a 3-minute presentation. After that, the audience will ask questions of the candidate. Basically, the idea is that it's of a personal nature regarding the candidate, into the background, what you need to know about them, etc., etc. And then, after we've all had a grilling individually, we'll have a short break, and then they'll all 3 come back on the platform, and they'll all answer a question which is put to them all, so you can judge their individual answers on a certain question. So, if you could try and contain your questions into categories for the individuals and then as a collective, that would be great. And also, could I ask you that we're here to question the candidates, so could I ask you to make sure you ask questions and don't make long statements or a personal manifesto. We're here to find out who they are, what they stand for, and whether we should elect them to be the next leader of UKIP. Okay, without further ado, we drew straws, and the man with the short straw will be the first to speak. Just 1 second, Freddy. I've forgotten my introductory notes. First person is Freddy Vachha. Freddy is UKIP's regional chairman for UKIP's second largest region, London. He is a very experienced fighter for UKIP, a serial entrepreneur. Freddy has first-class university qualifications in physics, mathematics and accounting, and trained with what became Ernst & Young. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Freddy Vachha.
I've worked since I was 15. I am happy when working. In terms of UKIP, I'm not involved, but we had this one before. But yes, I respect. We're right now on our uppers, and trying to pretend we're not is silly. We've got our reputation for telling the truth. We must continue telling it. How do we get here? Limited value. We got here. We need to get out of it. We need to be electorally relevant again. We need to get the fear of God in people like the Brexit Party, who will not respond to anything other than threats, electoral threats. We have to be the electoral threat. They could vanish, they could be here to stay, they could be fielding candidates in local elections. Allegedly, they're looking for it. They're clearly splitting the vote with us. We can't negotiate with them. That's very, very clear. It would be a mistake, at least for the foreseeable future, to even begin to do so. Because when you sup with the devil, the spoon needed in this case would be longer than would be any way any of us could possibly imagine. They want to simply destroy us completely. For those who have followed what's been going on in UKIP for the last 2-3 years, you'd have found that there's been a pattern of curious events. One has led to the other, and they've all produced the net result which we experience today. Now, I heard, and congratulations to those of you who are councillors, but we want for the North East, big region, we want hundreds of councillors for UKIP. We want all of you to be councillors, and we want a lot more than that. We want parliamentary seats. This is a beautiful part of the country. This is part of the country where it's easy to remember what we're fighting for. We're fighting for everything. There's no one else but us, friends. This is the thin purple line. We are it. If there isn't us, the Brexit Party can fold into the Tory Party just like that. There'll be no difference. There is no difference. You've got a few show ones over there. Hey, the guy's an expert at doing this. So there's a token communist here and a token whatever, and we're going to pretend there's democracy. But this is not a party. The leader is the same as the NEC, whatever you may think of the NEC. There's no NEC. It's just one man. The whole thing's a facade. It's a complete and utter personality cult around just one person. We are a democratic party instead. We're a party that believes in these values and we practice what we preach. We are superior. We've just got to tell this to the public, make the public understand that we are actually the ones, we were the custodians of British sovereignty and independence. And that little word, which means more than all the others put together, at least to me, that little word being freedom. Freedom means no EU interference, but it means a lot more than that. It means the freedom to speak frankly, to make bad jokes even. Make good ones occasionally, that would help. All these freedoms are being eroded, taken away, stolen from us. Why? I'm probably too polite to say. It could just be incompetence, it could be a deeper socio-Marxist agenda. I don't know. There's probably a whole cluster, something, I'm not likely to use that word, of reasons as to why we are where we are. We have to get out of it. And get out of it we shall. Vote for me. I know what to do to make UKIP relevant again. Thank you.
Okay. First question. Come on, somebody's going to ask Freddy something. It's the gentleman.
You started work at 16. What
Teaching. I use at all. But I wanted to study accountancy because I wanted to run businesses. And on my dad's side of the family, no one did. I knew I wanted to run businesses. And the way to run businesses was to see them from the outside, see lots of different businesses, and therefore you train at the top. That is just big firm of chartered accountants. And you see lots of them. You see different client every week. They're all different. Corner shops are sadly all the same. Big businesses are pretty much all different. So that was my business training. I'd already been running my own business in computer software, but I've continued. UKIP is just like another business. What we're selling is ideas. We're selling our vision. We're selling the fact that we know this country is worth protecting and that we do a lot to protect it. We almost do anything to protect it. Other people have mischaracterized us, lied about us, cheated, given us the most awful treatment in the mainstream media. It's not just me, I've certainly had it, but my fellow candidates here have had just the same. You can't just lie down and let them do it. I've had the BBC on to me thrice on the subject of Tommy Robinson. Note, I'm a politician, so I'm developing your question. And on the subject of Tommy Robinson, they've tried everything with me, and they've come a proper each time. Simply because I stuck to my guns. I didn't defend Tommy's criminal record and all that's just a matter of fact. It's unfortunate. But that does not change the fact that his main angst, what really, really gets to him, should bloody well get to all of us as well. And that is that there's been systematic organized gang rape of young women throughout the country on a scale of an industrial scale. And this is not just gang rape, it is sex slavery. That means there is no way out for virtually all of them psychologically. And all of the organs of government and the fourth estate, the journalists were supposed to be keeping a watchful eye, all believed to be quiet. Shameful things like this. I asked the BBC whether whether they were aware of it, or not aware of it, or didn't know about it. They tried all three on different occasions, and they came a proper each time.
Thank you. Take all the glasses there.
Would you keep Tommy Robinson on then in his advisory capacity if you were leaving?
He's not in an advisory capacity to UKIP. That's the point. Let's talk about something here called the Overton window. When you talk to people, I encountered this in my first speeches in UKIP, when I immediately brought up the subject of immigration. Because ignoring it is like ignoring the elephant in the room. I'd said the gorilla in the room, and then I'd be accused of racism or some crazy nonsense like that. I noticed that a large section of the audience were effectively doing this, yeah. They wouldn't listen to a word I was saying. They just switched off as soon as they heard immigration. This is about 6 years ago. Now that's shifted. We've moved it. We used to move things to the Conservative Party. We allowed them. They took lots of the electoral credit for what we did. We did it first. Remember, without us, there wouldn't have been a referendum, let alone a victory in a referendum. And now an actual, apparent, possible delivery of a real Brexit in a few months' time. What we must never allow to do is for the media to dictate what we choose to say and think. We must be pushing at the edge of this all the time. Pushing at it. So I'm quite happy for Tommy to be pushing as well, and maybe pushing it a bit further. And we take advantage of that. I don't think he particularly wants to join you. That's another matter. So stay on as an advisor. He's not an advisor to UKIP, so there's a fallacy in the question, but I know what you mean. Look, he's had his mistakes, but what's actually going on there, I believe he's a good guy. He's certainly not a racist, that's a preposterous lie, filled by the media. We have to use this sort of thing without being portrayed as a street fighting group. So,
my worry is that you don't speak the truth. You're frightened to face the truth. You just mentioned one of the biggest problems that's been going on for nearly 30 years, almost 40 years in this country. You have not mentioned who the problem's with. We have a threat with it. Are you going to stand up and speak about that threat? Because it's skirted around it.
Perfectly fine question.
What is the question?
I've understood the question. My answer will answer it. Let me tell you the statistics, because I've been publishing this within UKIP. You're obviously one of the lucky people who haven't had one of my hundreds of emails with that on the top of it. I have analysed this. I'll even give you a more interesting statistic in a few minutes. The majority of these awful sex slavery cases, the perpetrators, the scoundrels who are doing it, they are people who are profess the Islamic faith, that they are or not, the rest of us would assume they are Muslims, and they are of Pakistani origin, and the figures are at least 80% of them Muslims, and of the Muslims, at least 80% are of Pakistani origin. Is that specific enough? enough for you, sir. I've been saying exactly that. Further, there's a petition on the government website right now, parliament.uk, which calls for this petition. It calls for people like me to be put into jail for even beginning to criticize Islam. Now, I'm an agnostic. I want to criticize all religions, but I would particularly want to criticize any religion that wants to kill me for criticizing it, because that offends me, and it should well offend you as well, because it's absolutely outrageous. Concluding part of this. That government petition, yeah, it's saying that we are not allowed to criticize any religion. Of course, it's very interesting to see who has signed that petition. When you click on it, there's a link which says, go to the map. You can see a map of the UK, and you can see where they voted for it. This voted for the petition to shut people like me up. No, I'm not going to be shut up. You have to lock me up and shut me up. So, this is not what our ancestors died for. It's ridiculous. But that map, how many of you can guess what I'm going to say next? That map, the map of where people have signed it, is the same map as the map where these goddamn sex slavery cases have been brought up. Not the courts, not the Crown courts where they've been faced, the actual place where it's happened. So the Leeds case recently, those 28 tow rags, one was found not guilty and not included in that. The 28 of them were from Huddersfield. So Huddersfield is one of those areas, and Huddersfield is bright red on that map in the government website. That's where the people are signing. I hope this dawns on you. So, was that frank enough for you? Good. I'm tempted to go into that. You want the truth? You can't handle the truth.
The young gentleman there, next to the person who just made the question.
You say it's free speech, but you've just bowed to political correctness with your first introduction, with the radio we're going for.
We start quiet, please. You catch more flies with honey than with vinegar.
I don't love that. I want someone who's going to speak the mind and to say the truth.
I thought I'd just done that by overwhelming majority of the room. Which bit of the last bit wasn't true?
Political correctness in your speech. You said, oh, I'm not going to say that. That's political correctness.
I've just said it, sir. I don't understand the question. Do you?
No, I'm afraid I don't. We'll move on to the next one. The gentleman to the side. Was it Stuart, was it? Yeah, Stuart? Stuart?
You mentioned that UKIP's a Democratic Party. I come to the NEC. When we elect them, we get a summary and a photograph of people from various parts of the country. After I joined the party, I suggested very strongly that each region should have an elected representative on the NEC. When are you going to make that happen?
If I was a leader of UKIP, sorry, I suppose that's wrong, isn't it? When I'm the leader of UKIP, that won't happen. It's right, that's just stupid, the way it is. It is like a lottery. It's more like a jury selection than a selection of the wisest people. It depends on the shade of colour in the photograph or whatever, whether one's underexposed or not. No one has time to read. At one point there were 93, I believe, applicants for the, maybe 94 applicants for it, so it was a complete lottery for 6 vacancies. So you get pot luck, you just get a random selection of people. Jury selection isn't a bad thing, though, entirely. The NEC is democratically elected. You elect them. Choose wisely. Ask for, perhaps you can always contact the candidates you want. Ask them to provide you with a CV. These are candidates for the NEC or any other election.
No, what I actually said was each region.
Yes, I agree. I'm one of the backers of that.
Representative
Yes.
for the NEC.
Yes, I would support that. Because it's simply fair, and then you can be voting for somebody who you know of locally, not on the basis of their face. Thank goodness, because otherwise I wouldn't get elected anywhere. I get elected. I've won 4 elections from the trot because they know me there as regional chair. It will be done. I went further. I said that the whole process there is suspect. It is democratic, but it produces a jury, not a team of relative experts.
Okay, thank you, Freddy. Next question. Gentleman at the front.
If you support sort of freedom of speech, etc., and you're supporting what, say, Tommy Robinson says, if Tommy Robinson, not that he's put in to join UKIP, but he did put in to join UKIP, would you support?
In UKIP, we're a party of law and order. We are ruled by our Constitution, which was written a long time ago. The Constitution says members of proscribed parties cannot be allowed in except under exceptional circumstances. When we look at there's only been one time ever that exceptional circumstance thing was triggered, and I believe it was somebody who had only a few days left to live, and he just wanted to join UKIP, and then he died. That is a very tragic case. That clearly doesn't apply here. If you want to change the Constitution, there is a method in it. You have to look up the Constitution in the UKIP rulebook. There is a method that you, the people, can do it. So if you feel the NEC selection process as well is unfair, and it would need constitutional change for that, the Constitution contains the means for you to do it. I'm not avoiding the question. The leader can't do it. The leader can press it.
I'm not asking what rules are, but I'm asking if you would support.
I would support it if the membership supported it. Simple as that. It to require a change in the Constitution. I don't know how many times you have been on the media. You may have been more experienced than I am in this. But we have lots of things which they hit us with. We want to talk about things which we want to talk about, not be ambushed by talk about, for example, whatever Carl Benjamin said about the requirement to have enough beer in order to have a certain connection with Jess Phillips, the Labour MP. That is stuff which is freedom of speech. To me, it's pretty bad taste. They want to talk about stuff like this. Let Tommy Robinson in, and by God, they'll be talking about everything else. They say if you let in the head of the EDL, you've got to let in everyone else in the EDL, including some people who you and I would not want to leave, to let into UKIP. Let the members decide this, and this is the membership as a whole, in an EGM, which is called to actually get through the change to the Constitution. I'm a Democrat.
Thank you, Freddie. Yeah, this gentleman at the front.
Heard quite a bit from the floor here, Tommy Robinson and the grooming gangs and so forth. And yes, I think we're all well aware of the threats we face from not only that, but Islamic fundamentalism and so forth. But do you not think at this point in time that UKIP has deviated too far from its original course, which was to get out of the EU?
Indeed it has. This is where a tightrope walk is needed now to get us back onto mainstream acceptability, because we are dismissed. In fact, had I not been reasonably agile, I'd probably be speaking to you with an even uglier nose than I have, because I had a door thrown at me quite recently in mid-Kent, literally thrown at me, and I jumped back to back to avoid it, because we are again an unacceptable party. We're a party who polled 1.18% in Peterborough. This should have been a party, a constituency where we did considerably better than that. We did badly in the local elections. Whatever statistics are put there, we did not do well nationally. Your region was one of the, I think, the best performing. The worst performing is, I'm not going to name them here, but we had a dose in London a year previously in 2017 where we lost all our councillors. There was nothing we could have done about it. No matter how hard they were going to be gone out, because we were seen as having gone down the wrong track. And this is unfortunate.
And are we still going down the wrong track? Or?
Not with me. This would be brought up. Look, the growing Islamification of the country is a matter of concern. But if we go at it like a bull at the gate, we just get not listened to. So the mistake was putting it front and center. Instead, don't even use this word. We don't need to most of the time. We should talk about one law for all. We don't need to talk about special laws for that sort of paedophiles. We talk about the same law for all sorts of paedophiles. Again, one law for all works well, and few people, including the vast majority of Muslims, would even think of objecting to it. It's so obviously fair. This bringing in of other laws, legal systems in, is absolutely abhorrent, and we mustn't allow it at all. And it is going on in the back streets, in premises which are not licensed to do so. And yes, this is not fully enforceable law, but if you're a woman living in a Muslim community, and if you don't adhere to it, your life's going to be hell, unless you want to cut all links. And that's pretty hard for most people. Remember, we are a caring party as well. We don't want these parallel systems. We have our own legal system, which is based on principles. Hard to sometimes remember that it is based on those principles, the way it is implemented now by many of our judges. Commonwealth is infiltrated. But this system is a lot better than the alternatives. We have to focus on these issues and then be taken seriously again, and not to be taken as street fighting thugs, which is how we are currently portrayed to men. We know we're not. Many people who know us well know we're not. But the vast majority of the public don't know it so clearly. We've got to correct that. That is right. It will be corrected if we go back banging on about Islam as the main thing all the time. It's a matter of balance, as is most things in life.
And have you got a plan for this?
Absolutely. I, myself, for those of you who don't know this, well, my mum is English, my late mother. My father is a Parsi. Parsis were a race who originated from Persia. 1300 years ago, they assumed the new religion coming from the West to them would be like Christianity or Judaism, with which religions they coexisted happily and peacefully, in the case of Judaism, for 2,000 years, maybe 2,500. In the case of Christianity, for more than 500 years. Boy, were they wrong. They are separated. This gives me, this is unfair, it gives me the ability to speak about this without being interrupted quite as often by the media, calling me, the usual far right now, or whatever. It's nonsense. It doesn't mean far right or racist. It just means the lefties lost the argument. We do know that. There's no other reason for that. They have nothing to say, so they throw epithets at us and use ad hominem. Well, in reality, we know we're not. We're talking the truth. Look, immigration is an important subject. We can rely on the Brexit Party not to touch it. It's our territory. And if too little immigration, you die first. If too much, you drown. And we're right now at the drown level. We're completely at the drown level. It's got to stop now. It's got to stop now. We've got to find who the illegals are. We've got to deport them. A due process, of course, I'm not rounding up people on the street. Very swift processes to go through the appeals, and then off they go unless they're able to prove that they have the right to be here legally.
Thank you, Freddy Vachha. Okay, the second shortest straw was brought by Richard Braine. He is the chairman of UKIP West London. He volunteered for the referendum party in the 1990s and has only ever voted for them and for UKIP. Richard was a borough manager for Grassroots Out and Vote Leave during the referendum campaign. He ran a team of 90 volunteers and scored the second highest result in his area. He stood for UKIP in local, Westminster and EU parliamentary elections and has developed canvassing and DIY leafleting software to help UKIP fight elections more efficiently. He has a degree in physics and philosophy and he has run his own photography, design and software business for 25 years. He's married with 4 children. Ladies and gentlemen, Richard Braine.
Good evening. It's a real pleasure to be here. Thank you for coming to hear us. Richard has told you a little bit about me already. The first thing I want to talk to you about is Gerard. Gerard Batten saved this party a year ago. He's put 27 years of hard work into the party, and he is an exceptionally determined person with great integrity, great honesty. I admire him, and I think it's absolutely terrible that he isn't able to stand in this leadership election. A month ago I went on the television to say that one of the reasons why I was UKIP through and through and would never go to the Brexit party is because we are a democratic party. We elect our chairman, we vote on everything, and we elect our leader. And here we are in a situation a month later where I have an egg on my face because, in fact, the NEC took out a favourite in our leadership election. But as you may know, I have asked Gerard to be my deputy leader. And after a few days, he agreed to do it. And so if you vote for me, Gerard will have a place in the party appropriate to his status and his long history of service to the party. And he'll be on the end of the telephone so that I have someone wise and sensible and informed and a fantastic Brexit spokesman available to me to make sure that I do things right. I am a somewhere person, not an anywhere person. I live in the house that I was born in. My parents live round the corner. My father is You belong here. This is your culture. This is your history. Your parents, your grandparents, you belong here. And that's why it is so difficult to see the way this country is changing, the way immigration is changing, our communities, our villages, our towns. We see pubs closing down. We see churches closing down. We see mosques being built. And we see society actually breaking down. We see crime increasing. We see balkanization, different groups of people who barely know each other and barely speak the same language. That has to stop. We need to get immigration under control, and UKIP's immigration policy will achieve that. And we're going to have more immigration policy and uphold our law and actually make sure that our law is implemented. We're going to make sure that we stop the balkanization of Britain.
Thank you, Richard. First question to Richard, please. From the back.
I think it's a great idea. Yes. And I'd like to see British firms and British engineers, British industry, back where it used to be, building power stations, building ships, being looked to by the whole world as the place where the Industrial Revolution took hold. We're not a volcanic area. We don't have a lot of earthquakes in the UK. There have been a couple of bad nuclear accidents, in Japan, for instance. But by and large, the nuclear industry in this country has actually been very safe. A lot more people have died from fossil fuels than nuclear. In fact, if you look at wind farms and look at the stats, you might be surprised to see how many people have been killed in the construction of wind farms. And nuclear actually is a remarkably clean, it's not the cheapest energy, but it is clean. We have done it before, and I think that we should increase our interest, increase our stake in nuclear. It's a very clean form of energy, and we should be doing it. A country as developed as ours should be doing it.
Okay, thank you. Next question.
Being a friend of Vachha, will you not face the same persecution as what we have?
I'm not sure that Gerard has been persecuted. I think it's terrible that he's been stopped from standing, and I think that's an undemocratic decision. I do think that there possibly are people in the party who want to connect with the Brexit Party, who perhaps are still loyal to Nigel. I can't say exactly why it's happened. I think it's a great shame. But I will do business with the NEC. I will obviously do what's right, what the leader has to do to deal with the NEC. And I will hope that I'll be able to actually speak to the NEC and argue my point with them so that we'll actually have a degree of unity. I don't see myself having a conflict with the NEC. They are elected. I do agree with what was said earlier that we need to have a much better process of electing people to the NEC. And I think a regional arrangement is a good idea. But it has to be done carefully because some of our regions are very sparse of voters or members, party members, and some are very, very busy. And so we need to make sure that those regional elections lead to a situation where people are fairly represented so that they have as much representation in votes on the NEC as the number of members that NEC member represents.
The gentleman at the back.
I've got a two-part question. What's your idea on fracking? Would you allow it in this country or not? As well as what would be your immigration policy?
Fracking, the point about fracking, if you look at the US has become energy independent. We're the UK Independence Party. We should aim to be energy independent. We should aim to be energy independent, and that is one of the ways that we can be. And so I actually think it's important to, obviously you proceed with caution, that's quite right, but this can actually deliver a vast amount of energy that we didn't know we had, and this actually leads you to be independent from the oil producers of the world. And one of the problems that we've got at the moment is that the oil producers of the world in the UN and in relations with this country have too much influence. We were talking about the growth of Islam earlier. Don't forget that really a large amount of money is used to promote Islam outside the Middle East. And don't think that that can be disconnected from the value of oil.
So you're going to put basically our health and our safety for money, because that's what fracking is. Fracking slowly, it doesn't matter how safe we say it is, it's not safe. It poisons the soil, it poisons the water, and then it slowly starts poisoning us. It doesn't matter how we say it is, it causes sinkholes, everything.
Sadly,
Candidates.
answer the question.
Can I just say, that's an open
Just come
question.
back to it.
I think what you've said is an open question. I'm not going to disagree with you, but we know that fracking all over the world has produced a lot of energy and allowed countries to become energy independent. And I'm not sure that the risks that you're talking about are not overstated. We need to proceed with caution, but we should view it very seriously as a way for this country to regain energy independence.
And I believe you had a second part to your question, so
Yeah.
would you like to put that to now?
It was just about the immigration policy and stuff like that. Is it going to be the same as under Gerard Batten, or are you going to put your own take on it?
I think our manifesto is fantastic, and there's very little in it that I disagree with, and it's not my job to disagree with it because I support UKIP. UKIP is a fantastic party. Look at all you people here today. You've worked hard over years to get elected, to win the referendum, to achieve our independence. So for that reason, I don't have an intention to wipe the slate clean with our manifesto. I think it's a great manifesto. When it comes to the immigration policy, I've been challenged on the parts of the immigration policy that talk about immigration from countries which are known to have problems with Islamic extremism. And I defended that policy very clearly. It is about the safety of British people. Our government, first and foremost, has a duty to keep us safe, to make sure that our borders are controlled and that we actually have security, whether it be through military or police or the legal system. But that's government's responsibility. And if the government lets large numbers of people into this country, for instance, people who've been to Syria to be trained with ISIS and so on, they're making a terrible, terrible mistake, and they're putting the lives of all of us here at risk, and I think that's totally unacceptable. So I absolutely stand by. I stand by our policy on immigration, and in particular, the clause in our manifesto that talks about immigration from areas that have terrorist problems.
Next question from the black t-shirt.
In the pub when we have our branch meetings, some of the locals said, we like UKIP, we support them, but we're still supporting Brexit party now. My interest in Telegraph, they're full page spread for the Brexit party, they're Tories, anyway. What do you think is going to happen to the Brexit party after Brexit?
I don't know the answer to that question. I mean, I've speculated that it might well be either absorbed by the Tory party, which seems possible, bearing in mind a lot of the funders and a lot of the candidates, in fact. Equally, it may turn out to be a lifeboat for the Tory party if Johnson fails to deliver Brexit. So, but I think I heard a little bit of news yesterday that suggested that a Tory government might just deliver Brexit. Someone who was in my campaign group, I was in charge of him actually during the referendum itself, was a Tory councillor called Daniel Moylan, and he went out as a Tory councillor in my borough and knocked on doors and put out my leaflets and did what he participated in our campaign. He's properly dedicated to getting out of the EU, and he's made very many strong arguments for it. And Boris has just given him a job and promoted him to be a spokesman or a negotiator involved in his Brexit plan, his Brexit process. So all I can say is that I take as a sign that something's changed, because they're starting to promote people who really do believe in Brexit, who who really do believe that we can be an independent, successful country. So there's a real possibility that we might see something like the Brexit that we all hoped for actually delivered this year. It's not impossible. If that happens, the Brexit Party will, and Nigel perhaps will go on another 3-year paid holiday and then start up a new party with a new name. And perhaps that party will be named after a UKIP policy as well.
Sylvia. Good
Hello, Sylvia.
Let me put my glasses on, sorry. There's Pam's over there.
Just that. Gerard always supports veterans. Would you do the same? Would you do it both together?
Absolutely, I would.
Ex-forces myself, as well as probably quite a few here.
Absolutely.
I do support the veterans, and I think it's shameful what they're doing. There's no homes for them, they're on the streets, and if it wasn't for the British Legion, I don't know what would happen to them, and I'm very angry.
I certainly support veterans, and as I said, my own father is a D-Day combatant. Gerard has been very good at attending veterans events, and if you elect me, I will also do that. I would point this out, that when Gerard attends those events and speaks, he doesn't wear a UKIP rosette or badge. He does it as a British person supporting our veterans, and I would certainly aim to do exactly the same thing. I think he's got
Thank you. A very similar point. We had the UKIP Veterans Association trying to build it for the last couple of years. Now the chairman's jumped ship. Do you see any way to reinvent the UKIP veterans or get them organised properly?
Well, I think that at the moment, obviously, we've got a problem with people looking at the Brexit Party and thinking that right now the Brexit Party is an option because October 31st is going to come. They want to express that. And as we discussed, in a year or 2 years or 5 years' time, it may well be that that party will, the name of that party will not be particularly relevant. What we have to do as UKIP is make sure that we continue to fight for our principles and never give in, that we never get pushed back by the press into apologising or saying that we don't actually support our own policies because we're scared of people calling us nasty names. Okay, we have to stand up to that. We have to say, you may call us far right, but we are actually far centre. We are moderate people. We discuss everything in politics. We are not Nazis at all. Many of us are not even socialists. And so for that reason, I think UKIP will survive and will exist in a year or 2 or 5 years' time. And I think many of those people who've gone to the Brexit Party to express their frustration with the last 3 years will actually come back to us, because time will move on. The river moves on, and the issues that are going to be most important in 2 years' time are not the same as today. We will make progress, so I think people will come back to UKIP. We have to stick with UKIP as the hardcore and make sure that we get better, we have better tools, we campaign better, we know our arguments better, we know our manifesto better, and that we're actually a leaner, more efficient fighting machine than we've ever been before, and then they will come out.
Currently, the Labour Party in the North is in meltdown. How would you take advantage of the situation as a leader?
This is a great question. It's an absolutely pressing question. Unfortunately, we have not attracted enough Labour voters over the last couple of years, and it has been a great opportunity. I think that Gerard took a strategic decision. I actually asked him why he campaigned for Tommy when Tommy was a political prisoner, wrongly imprisoned. And he said to me, because it was right. But there is another aspect to this, which is that in fact, strategically, there's no question that the party has started to appeal more to working class people. And that may be why we're called far right. For the press, far right basically means working class. So we have started to appeal to working class people more, and I think we need to do that even more. One of the areas where we need to make sure that working class people appreciate what UKIP has achieved is that Brexit is actually going to make life better for the least well-off in this country. It's going to make goods cheaper. It's going to make wages higher, more reasonable, and it's also going excuse me, it's also going to ensure that there's less competition from abroad for jobs. So it's going to help the poorest, the least well-paid in our society, I think, more than anybody else, because the least well-off in our society are the ones who actually suffered most from this terrible experiment of totalitarianism in the EU that has damaged all of the economies of Europe, probably even Germany.
That was my question as well. So.
Time for one more session. Gentleman, the next to you.
Hi, Richard. Being 24, I'm one of the youngest people here. I was wondering if you've got any ideas how you would attract younger people and try and, I suppose, break Labour's well-known stranglehold on the youth within school, universities, things like that. What ideas?
Yeah, that's very difficult. But in fact, UKIP is, in a survey poll recently, was found to be the second most popular party amongst people in the 18 to 24 age range. So it is happening now. And one of the things that has helped, I think, is bringing in some of the YouTubers and youngsters coming into the party and getting involved. And after one of my interviews in the European election, I was with a chap called Eric, who I think Eric's 21. He's fantastically well informed. He's got bleached blonde hair and he always wears pink, and he's an alternative character, but he's fantastically well informed and he's great at engaging with people. And after that interview, we went to the pub and he took a picture of us and tweeted Boomer Millennial Alliance. And boomers are the baby boomers, that's me, born in the 60s. And the millennials, we all know, are the young people who everyone assumes, including the press, are extremely left-wing. But in fact, many of them, in order to rebel, have actually thought a lot harder about the politics that they're being spoon-fed by our media and have rejected and often have grown up in families where saying UKIP over the kitchen table will get you an unpleasant look anyway. But in fact, UKIP is rebellious. It's the punk party. We turn the world on its head. We're the rebels. We said what you shouldn't say, what you're not allowed to say, and we made it come true. And I remember Malcolm McLaren was asked about 15 years ago, the manager of the Sex Pistols, how can young people rebel today? And he said, don't buy anything. Well, I would say today that's changed. How can young people rebel today? Join UKIP.
That's Richard's session ended. So we come to our final speaker. Mike Hookem has been a stalwart of UKIP since joining the party in 2007. In that time he has held political posts at nearly every level, from branch chairman to regional chair, MEP to EFDD leader of UK delegation to the European Parliament. His career highlights include being the first British politician to spend significant time examining people trafficking in the Cali jungle, successfully campaigning for the introduction of Veterans Priority Card and changes to the Armed Forces Covenant, and helping to get a ban on electro-pulse fishing in British waters. Since 2018, he also served as UKIP's deputy leader. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mike Hookem.
Thank you very much. I must have been a busy boy. As you say, I've done every senior position in the party, but I see now that we are at a junction in the road. And I say we either go down the way we have been going for the last 18 months, and we become basically a shouty, ranty party on the streets of Westminster, or we go in a different route where we become an electoral threat out there on the street, winning council seats once again. You had a very successful time in the last council elections. Well done to everybody. But I want to see that replicated right across the country. We are not doing that. We have to win those seats again. We have to bring back the 4 million people that voted for us before. And the only way we can do that is to get the policies that people will vote for. Common sense policies. Many that you will see on the leaflet that I've given out today. Common sense policies that people will vote for. People will have trust in us and vote for us once again. Start at the ground level, because we are on the ground level, 1% in the polls. Start at the ground level, build on the council seats and build up to the Westminster. This is the only way you're going to do this. You either carry on what you're doing and be obliterated, or we go in a different direction and build on common sense policies and win again and be a party that's proud to go out on the streets, proud to wear a rosette and proud to see a UKIP. That's where I want to go, that's where I want to see the party go. That's what I'm all about, and that's what I will do if I become leader of this party.
Okay, first question. David, first.
Mike, how do we go about reversing the obvious politicisation of the police, as particularly volunteer and
Well, again, it all comes down to getting into council, getting into politics, you know, and being in there so we can change things. We can't change things standing outside. We've got to get into the policy, the council, Westminster, and that's how we do it. And you're going to hear me say this all night long. You're going to be bored sick of me saying it. It's all about policy. It's all about winning seats. It's about getting in there and making that change that we want. If we want to change things, we have to get into the councils and Westminster.
There's a huge amount of apathy out there. Trying to involve people in politics and getting them to read the manifesto, it's hard work. I won't be shouted down, I won't be called a racist because I'm not, but that's what the words that come at me. Bigot, racist. How do we get the information out there? How do we make people listen? How would you get over apathy?
The apathy's there, I know it's there, and why not? Because we've been betrayed by the Tory party in the Brexit negotiations. It's 3 years to take us to where we are now, which is nowhere, where we was 3 years ago. So the apathy's there because 17.4 million people voted for Brexit and the government and Westminster totally ignored it. That's where the apathy comes from. And to change that, we have to be what we used to be, a party that was out there on the street talking to people and not standing back when they're shouting these things at us. I've had it shouted at me many, many times. Not standing back, being out there and talking to them, looking them in the eye and saying, this is where we are, these are our policies, this is what we want to do to make your life better, to make your ward better, and get out there and fight for what we believe in. And we have to do that, and hopefully we turn that round. And we was doing that at one point, because I've been in this for 10 years. And when I first started, there was a lot of apathy out there, and we turned it round, and we've become a party that people will look at and will vote for. Sadly, we've gone the wrong way.
Gentleman there in the middle. Yeah,
Can you be specific?
no, sorry, not you. So you'd be next. Gentleman behind you. Sorry.
Do you believe in the term that you can do everything right in life and still it goes wrong? It goes something different, but that sort of belief.
You've been following me around, haven't you?
Stalker.
The only thing you can do in politics is do what you believe in and fight for what you believe in. That's what I've been doing for the last 5 years in the Parliament, and that's what I've been doing since 2007 within the party, fighting for what I believe in and making sure that we can change people's perception. And you can do everything right and it still goes wrong, and that goes throughout life. And there's some things I've done and it's gone wrong, but you've just got to keep battling on and keep fighting on. And if you're not of that mindset in UKIP, you've got to have a thick skin to be in this party. So you just keep battling on.
Can you be specific when you say that you want to change direction? Back, well, instead of being electoral, as to be unelectable. Can you be specific in exactly what direction you want to change?
What I want to do to the party, I want to change it. I want to change the structure of the party. to make sure that, as we spoke about today, I fought for, again, for 10 years for regional representation. We actually won that in I think it was 2014 Doncaster Conference, anybody that was there. We had a debate on that, regional representation, and the membership won that vote. We won it. Steve Crowder, the party chairman at the time, totally ignored it. He didn't want it. Nigel didn't want it. He didn't want any regional representation, so it was quashed. We have to change that now. The party is at a time where they've got to restructure, they've got to get regional representation so that the membership have a voice that goes up to the headship and the headship comes back down to the membership so that people can converse and speak and they know what's going on and they know exactly what the party's thinking and the party itself knows what the membership's thinking. So the structures, we've got to get the structure right, we've got to get the policies right, we've got to get policies on NHS, on housing, on jobs. That's what the man and woman out there want to hear. They want to hear what's going to affect their back pocket. They want to hear what's going to happen to their local hospital. GPs, it's a huge queue to get to a GP. Why is that happening? That's happening because of mass immigration. That's got to stop. We've got to get these things back and we've got to get out on the street and speak about the policies that affect every man and woman in this country. That's how we change it round.
Katie. I'd like to hear what your policy is on Islam and grooming gangs. I'm pretty sure that Freddy's crystal clear on yours.
Well, everybody knows what mine is because I've made it crystal clear. I've written about it, I've spoken about it. To me, that is not the main issue. We did a poll in the party. We sent a poll up there and said, what is your main issue within the party? Islam was 10th. It was 10th. It came out from Tony McIntyre, who was the chair at the time. He put a poll out there and it came back, it was 10. I think there's many, many greater issues in this country than Islam. If we're talking about rape of young children, is that what we're on about? Rape of young children on an industrial scale. That happened in Rotherham, in my region. We've just lost 12 councillors in Rotherham today. They've just walked away and gone to the Brexit party. Those people, very quietly, doing their job as councillors, worked with the police and with Muslims and with the community as a whole and got massive information on the rapists and everything else, and they brought prosecutions. They worked very quietly. The party has not done anything, but they haven't applauded them. That was hard work by councillors. Those councillors have felt, well, we've been abandoned by the party and have disappeared. If we're talking about rape, and rape, the Muslim rape, well, the Catholics have been doing it for hundreds of years. They've been raping kids. This week, in my town of Hull, there was a lad just got 10 years for raping a young child. He got 10 years. The guy's scum. He should have got life. He should have been thrown away. This happens all over. It's illegal in this country. It's one law, that's all. Not Sharia law, one law. And if you are raping kids, it's illegal. So whatever religion I don't tell me I've read a book so it's right. I am interested. It's illegal. You go to prison and you go to prison for a very, very long time. I'm not interested.
Am I next up, Richardson?
Well, you can't. It might turn to you.
So, the night of the Manchester bombings, I get a phone call from my daughter. She tells me what's going on because she's witnessed it all. A week later, I go to a demonstration, meet Tommy Robinson for the first time. A little while after that, I go to a demonstration in London. And then after that, I go to Birmingham. I meet Gerard Batten. I hear him speak, I meet Gerard Batten. Very clear about Islam. They're about Catholics, we know what goes on. We know what goes on. And it's all in there. We're important bad behaviour. Very bad behaviour by Islam. It's as simple as that. And you have to be strong and clear on what's going on with Islam. I didn't want to make a statement. I want you to be very clear about that. Because after those 2 interviews that you've done recently, what I would like to know is, how are you going to build confidence with the members, given those 2 interviews that you did? And I really felt like you saw Gerard down the river.
I was ambushed. I was on those two interviews because our leader wouldn't go on it. He wouldn't do any mainstream media. We had going into a European election and he wouldn't do it. The party chair rang me up and said, will you go do these two interviews? I said, yes, I'll go do it. I knew I was going to get Robinson, I knew I was going to get Benjamin.
We all do, every day.
Then I got these two things where they said, literalist Islam, and I thought, I can't support this. I'm sorry, as an honest man, I can't support this. Now, I've done, over 5 years, I've done interviews with every TV company. I've been live right across America. I've done Europe, I've done Russia, I've done right across this country. I've done lunchtime politics. I've done everything. I've been wired up for 12 hours when the BBC Two was calling me a vigilante in Calais, trying to trip me up. I couldn't, in all honesty, support these two politics. And I just felt I'd been ambushed there. I'd been pushed into something that I couldn't do. There's nobody beat yourself up more on these two absolutely terrible interviews that I did. There's nobody beat yourself up. But I will not take this party down that road. We have to be a completely different route if we want to be an electoral success. And we will not win votes going down this road. We will not. And I will not stand there, and I'm sorry, I'm being totally honest with you, I will not support that. I will support a fight against rape of young children. I will support a stricter immigration into this country and making sure who comes in this country is coming in. And basically, I want an Australian-style immigration system where those coming in are bringing skills into this country that we need. And I would stop all the rest, all of the millions that come into this country and put a wage compression on the working people of this country. I would stop all of that. I would build up on the border controls. I would put more technology into our border controls, because at the minute it's all over in Calais. I would have boats going around the country, basically a boat that would be checking on the fishing vessels, but also making sure that the vessels are not coming in bringing illegal immigrants in. I've seen it firsthand. I've been out there, I've watched them on the back of wagons, I've had guns pulled on me and the rest of it. So I'd do stronger immigration. I would make sure that these people are not coming in. If anybody's coming in to do harm on this country, then they shouldn't be allowed in. I would be very strong on that. But as a libertarian party in our constitution that says that we will not, if you read it, and I've got it here now, if you want me to read this thing out, where we are at the moment, this party, right, in pursuit of these objectives, the party will at all times adhere to the principles of full equality before the law. The party shall conduct itself and its affairs in such a way that it does not discriminate against or in favour of any person on the grounds of their race, religion, ethnic origin, education, belief, sexual orientation, class, social status, sectarianism or any other basis. I stand by that.
Really?
I stand by that. We are a libertarian party. That is what I join. I believe this party can go forward with the right values, the values that people would vote for.
I didn't realise I could do a little Democrat.
If you don't agree with that, I'm sorry. But that is my belief. I'm a politician. I'm not going to stand up here and lie to you to get your votes. That is my belief. That is what I'll do. I'm strong on that and I will not change my mind. Your children, it's illegal under British law. To rape a child is illegal and you go to prison for a long, long while. And I'm not interested in what religion you are. Whether you're Islam, Catholic, whatever religion. Don't tell me it's because of my religion. You're a paedophile. You go to prison. Chuck away the key. Not interested. Well, if the police are not doing it, and this is what they was doing in Rotherham, and this is what our council's got a grip of, the police and the council were not taking the suitable action. They, as politicians, started to make sure they were, and there have been many convictions in Rotherham, and they're still going through.
The Catholics don't get given.
We'll go around the people who put their hands up, don't I? Neil, I think, next.
Yeah. So do you see anything at all between the culture, say, within Islam and the Roman Catholics?
Sorry, I missed it.
Do you see anything at all between the culture of Islam and the Roman Catholics?
There is 5% of the population, and there was nearly 70 million people in this country. 5% are Muslim. Of that 5%, only 12% visit the mosque. That's fact. That's what happens. So, you know, I'm not a religious person. Don't tell me you're doing this because of whatever your religion is. I'm not religious. I come to a mum. It's illegal. You're raping a child.
It's not culture. You see a link to the culture.
Well, I don't think there is. I think you're a paedophile. I think you're a disgusting paedophile. So, you know, they're trying to link it to this. And I'm sorry, I'm not going to bend over on this.
But they
It's what I
marry
believe.
12-year-olds.
Sorry?
They marry 12-year-olds. What is that then?
Not in this country, and if they're doing, then it's illegal.
Gentlemen, back to the last
Then it should be clamped down.
You said.
First of all, I want to thank you. Last year I was in York when you were there and you gave me a speech. You marched with us as a veteran.
Yeah.
When the left sat there and called us racist stuff and nothing.
Yeah, and that was directed at me, really.
I want to thank you for that because a lot of people forget about some people like that. They tonight. What I want to know is, you talk about common sense policies. What policies have you got now that aren't common sense? Because I've read the manifesto. I'll go very into it. I could agree with 99.9% of that manifesto. And you're telling me we need common sense. What parts of the manifesto don't you agree with?
I agree with 99.9% of the manifesto. I wrote the fishing policy. I wrote the defence policy. And other policies I agree with on immigration and everything else like that. What I'm saying is we've got to put out there a manifesto, and my manifesto will go back to the 2015, which was a very successful policy document, but it will be updated, and that's what we will fight on. And it's got to be policies that you can fight on, that is simple for the people out there to read and understand, and those are the policies that we will fight on. Policies that you can get out there and say to the working man, that is what we want, that is what we believe in, and they will say, yeah, I agree with that. We should be scooping up, as we spoke today, we should be scooping up that Labour vote. The Labour vote's pulling itself apart of our anti-Semitism. We should be scooping that up. We are not. We are nowhere near doing that. They're not even coming to us. They're not even talking to us. So we should be attacking that, and we should be going for that Labour vote. I believe our success will be in the north and will be in the Labour areas. But to do that, we have to be a common sense party that people will have support in and vote for it.
Okay, well, we're out of time. Which one? You?
You.
Yeah, go on. Last one. We're out of time.
A couple of things related. You say you're scooping up the Labour votes. My experience on the doors or on the streets for the last 18 months has been, we do that. Our strength is in the Labour areas. So, there's not much to change there. However, earlier in your speech, you mentioned a statistic that we're at 1% in the polls. Which poll were you looking at?
Well, the majority of the polls, if we're any better, thankfully, you know, where are we then? Are we up at 15%, 16% where we was? Where are we? Well, yes, but you've been very successful. Why can't we replicate that rate across the country?
Because you've got high immigration down the country, haven't you? That's the problem. Sorry.
Let him answer his question.
That's a very good question. Why can't we replicate?
Because the party's abandoned. We need to get back into the branches. We need to give support to the branches. In Yorkshire was the most popular, most successful region in the party. And we're struggling to get branches now. We're struggling to get membership. I was told by Gerard we have 30,000 members. And I'm saying to him, Gerard, I've got branches shutting down. Where are the people to canvass? Where are the people to leaflet? There's nobody coming out.
My concern is immigration. One of my concerns is...
So it's the immigration that stops us canvassing. It's the immigration that stops our branches opening up.
Sorry, we're out of time, but we need to give an equal amount of time to each candidate. So, thank you all very much.
Thank you. I had a note here on Ben Walker. It says he's a former county council, local authority vice chair and town mayor. Owns and operates his own construction business, operating in Bristol and South Gloucestershire where he lives. He served in the Royal Navy and Afghan War. That was my introduction. He sent me this today, which I will read.
Who is this, sorry?
Ben Walker. Hello, my name is Ben Walker. I think we'll rephrase that, but you know what I mean. I must first start with an apology for why I cannot be here in person today. However, my partner is currently pregnant and overdue, and I simply cannot be this far away from her at this crucial time. The timing of this leadership election is most unfortunate. However, I'm sure that all of you in the audience today can understand that the birth of my child is naturally something I cannot miss. UKIP is in crisis. This year we experienced our largest net loss of councillors in local elections and our worst European election results since 1994. The party has lost all major donors and, unsurprisingly, members are deserting UKIP in their thousands as we plummet below 1% in the polls. If we are to save our party, we must address these cold, hard facts immediately. UKIP must have a positive and radical vision for post-Brexit Britain. We are the party for hard-working, patriotic men and women, the majority who work long hours, pay their taxes, and like us, oppose the politically correct agenda of our Westminster elite. In the EU referendum, the British people demonstrated their belief in this country. Since then, they have been browbeaten by the political and media establishment, peddled by the BBC. By staying true to our core values, UKIP can lead the way with a fresh and positive message. A crucial element of UKIP's past success has been you, the members. For little in return, grassroots members have donated their money and turned out to campaign. UKIP must go back to its grassroots by refocusing the party into local campaigning machine, contesting and winning local council seats. I've been pushing this vision of UKIP since 2017, and I'm disappointed to have seen that nothing has changed in this regard. I will prioritise and copy from UKIP's network of branches while drawing on the experience of members for future party policy. My leadership manifesto has already been written by branch officers. I've been elected at multiple levels of local government, parish, town, district council and mayor, alongside having been vice chair of my local authority. I know this can work. In areas of the country where UKIP has achieved unprecedented success, branches have been ignored and regrettably collapsed. Thurrock, Hartlepool, to name just a few. Under my leadership, I will focus my efforts reviving those long lost branches and raising central funds in target areas, ensuring we do not squander future golden opportunities. I am honoured to have served our country as a leading hand in the Royal Navy. I have served in the Afghanistan War and toured the Falklands. Members of the armed forces and the majority of the British public have one principal thing in common: they believe in Britain. If you elect me as the new leader, I'll show them that we are the party that believes in Britain and is ready to represent them. Ben Walker. What I would like to do is give the audience the opportunity to pose some questions for Ben, if you have any pressing ones. If you can make them succinct so that the Tony can take them down, I will then forward them to Ben Walker and ask for his response to them, and I'll probably put them either directly to you or on the UKIP North East webpage. So, are there any pressing questions that somebody would like to be put to Ben Walker?
I'll put one.
Could you just give your name for Tony?
Don't need a Richard. Put one to him and he answered, so you can read that if you want.
Okay, why not? Come on. We like to be open.
On the same policy.
Chin up, son.
What was the question to?
Questions on the top.
Oh, I see. Oh, yeah, sorry. Can I ask your thoughts on Tommy Robinson? Hi, John. Sure, I believe in many of his arguments and that at times he has been vilified. It's UKIP's failure to be strong on some of these issues which has seen a rise in TR's popularity. We need to be making the case in a way that is digestible to the general public. We are a political party who exists to succeed at the ballot box. We have seen recently that our association with him hasn't really benefited the party. We must be trying to appeal to a wider audience. He also took votes from us by standing against us in the recent EU elections. I think the TR chapter has closed, but it is us that must regroup and continue to make the arguments in the right manner, ensure we follow the path of mainstream politics, not street politics.
So does anybody, Hugh, what's your question?
What's your question for Ben? It's Hugh Jackson, Freddy.
My question is, would Mr. Walker be prepared to move at least some of his focus from the southwest to the northeast?
Any other questions? David?
Yes, I'd like to know what Ben's opinion would be on the reintroduction of national service.
He's a very good scribe, isn't he? Look at him go. Any more before we go for the break? Yeah, Jim Declan? Excuse me, I can't hear. What's his opinion on zero-hour contracts? Could you please raise your hand and speak through the chair? Please. I believe you're next. Ken.
I just want to say, can you ask him to do it on a video log, please?
Okay.
So we can show it and add it to this.
All right. Did you want to speak?
I was just wanting to know the rest of the opinion on zero-hour contracts.
Well, it's too late now. You had the opportunity. You can ask it in the next session. You can ask it in the next session. That's the next session. I can't go back on time. Okay, no more questions? Great. Well, that concludes the first section, so we'll take a break now, a refreshment break, and we'll call you back in about 10 minutes or so for the group questions. Thank you very much.
What did you do behind it?
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, as I said in my email, I asked the questions in advance, so I'll take those first, and then we'll take questions from the audience. I hope to get as many of you as possible to ask a question. The first question is from Ken. Where's Ken?
Not me.
David Cameron famously set foreign aid at a minimum of 0.7%. What do you guys think the level should be as a minimum, as Cameron set it, or a maximum? But what percentage do each of you guys think it should be?
I think that relates to about £14 billion that we pay out. We pay out just to countries that have a nuclear aircraft carriers. I'd love one of those. We haven't got any of those. I think we could cut it down to about £2 billion, and I think it needs to be audited. It needs to go to those who are in desperate need, that have had serious flooding or weather problems, that are in desperate need for this thing. We need to cut out giving money to countries to fund. I think we had an African space scale group or something we funded at one point. We even sent money to China. It's ridiculous. We need to cut it back and use that money in this country for whatever, schools, education, hospitals, whatever. It's got to come back into this country. I think sensibly we could cut it back to about £2 billion.
I don't think there's any particular level we should look for. We should only give it to either save lives or to teach people how to stop needing foreign aid. We are borrowing money from countries like, from banks in India and in China and in Russia to give aid to India and China and Russia. You couldn't make it up. We're giving aid in Africa to girl bands who are apparently very much in, but they are foreign aid recipients. This has gone nutty, completely crazy. We're thinking we can buy popularity. Most of it ends up in Swiss bank accounts anyway. Oh, and we are funding the elite in those societies who are invariably corrupt. This whole thing is nuts, misbegotten nuts. You don't get popular in the world by bribing people. You get it by being good. We should go back to just being good and friendly and not handing out loads of ardosh when people here are suffering as they are. It's gone on long enough. It's got to stop. My minimum level, 0. I wouldn't mind some back. Freddy has just given more or less the same answer I gave 2 nights ago, and I agree with it fully. So there's really nothing between us on that. I think it's important to remember that we do need to have emergency funds should we need to go and help, and we've helped lots of countries around the world. We also have the world's leading insurance industry, so we shouldn't encourage people to be shy of using our great insurance industry. So hopefully people in foreign countries will insure themselves against some of the worst things that can happen. So I would say yes, there's no level. Ideally, where it comes to aid, it's actually symbiotic. We are the country that made trade happen globally. We built the modern world, and what happened was we scratched their backs, they scratched ours. Trade was the key to building the modern world. Some countries even applied to join the British Empire or the Commonwealth, even though they weren't, because they could see how profitable it was for both sides, for everybody. So, for that reason, I think that we should not have a level, and we should hope that profit accrues to both sides in all of our trading and relationships with foreign countries.
Alan Breeze, your question you submitted by email, please.
We all know that over the last several years we've had a big decline, and what would you say is the single biggest cause of that decline, in your opinion?
Sorry, are you asking the decline in UKIP or the decline in the country?
The decline in the UKIP.
Excuse me, Alan, your question was...
You switched them on you. I told you not to do it this way.
No. What do you believe is the number one reason UKIP in the recent past found itself unable to inspire the electorate to lend us their vote?
Well, same.
That's what I've said. It's the same basis. All right.
Right, I'll get to this. You need a leader who's not only brave, but he can be funny. He's charismatic. He's more honourable than a certain past leader of ours, or maybe a certain past two. I'm obviously not referring to Gerard Batten here. He's dead honest. But they've been, Gerard did not take his full salary from the EU. He's a commendable person in these respects. But I would not have said that charisma is his strongest point, nor would he being an honest man. I believe I am a likeable rogue, and that's what UKIP needs at its top. Another likeable rogue here. In the 2017 leadership hustings, the candidates were asked why UKIP had performed badly in the 2017 general election, and lots of answers were forthcoming, and most of them were nonsense. And the one person who actually answered it correctly was Anne-Marie Waters, and she said that UKIP had done so badly in 2017 because we succeeded in forcing the other parties to promise Brexit. The referendum is the reason why we've been in a trough since 2016. It continues to be that reason. We've seen that Brexit has been delayed for 3 years now with nothing happening at all. But look at the Tory vote in the European parliamentary election that we just saw. We got 9% down into single figures. So they did exceptionally badly too. The Brexit party stormed it. But the point to understand about this is that our current performance, it doesn't actually indicate that, for instance, Gerard has done badly over the last year. If you look at the votes before Gerard took over, the 2018 local elections and then 2017, we were doing badly then. In fact, possibly even worse. We had a low turnout in these European parliamentary elections just now, and we still got more than 500,000 votes, 554,000 I think we got. And in the local elections this year, where we stood, I think we averaged about 16%, which is quite good for us. We didn't stand up candidates, we have to tackle that problem. We all have suspicions as to why that is the case. We need to fix that. But we're not doing as badly as people say. Don't be taken in by it. That's what the media want you to think. If we bounce back, if we work hard, we can do well again. The support is still out there for us. People will come back to us. So take heart, be courageous, get out there and make the point and push our manifesto.
I agree with the first part of what Richard was saying. We have a tradition where whenever we do well, our heads go down and we stop doing it. And then we slump on it. You can see that over everything that we've done. We stopped talking to the people. We stopped talking to them on Brexit, on the European Union. We just stopped talking. We started talking about something completely different. We should have been out there. We was the party that won that referendum, as Richard said. You was the people that did that. You won that. We forced a sitting Prime Minister to take part in a referendum he never ever wanted. But we did that. But once we'd done that, then our minds went off. It went off on a different tangent. We should have carried on with that. We should have been the party that was fighting for Brexit. It should have been us, not the Brexit party. But then Nigel come along with his multi-million-pound Tory money that he's got and wiped the floor. They started talking about Brexit and we was talking about something completely different. In the local elections again, we was out there, and I know I'll say again that you people did very, very well in this area, but in other areas we never had the candidates, we never had the people out there to canvass, to leaflet, to knock on doors. All the things that you use to win elections, we just didn't have those people out there doing that, and we have to get back to doing that and winning elections again. And until we get sensible policies, winning elections, we are an irrelevance to a lot of people. We was embargoed by the mainstream media. They wouldn't talk to us. They wouldn't have anything to do with it. They just said, that's it, we're not talking to Brexit, to UKIP, we're going to talk to Brexit and Nigel. Nigel, if you look at before that, a year before, Nigel couldn't get on anything. And then soon as the European election came, he was on everything. He was just on, he was on the TV, he was in the papers, he was doing everything. Because they just looked at him and spotlighted him, and we wasn't getting on anything. We wasn't talking to anybody. We have to be a sensible party, common sense party. We have to get out there and start working again. I'm sorry, and I keep saying it, we've got to change direction. We've got to start winning elections once again and being a successful party.
Why is that? You say that the mainstream media did that, but why? Why did the system
do the same?
Just to kind of get to answer why?
Because I'm sorry to say our leader, Gerard, wouldn't have anything to do with him. He just said, I'm not talking, if you're going to mention Tommy Roberts, I don't want to talk to you. And when he came to Hull, I had to drag him across the street and say, this guy's all right, I know this BBC guy, I've worked with him for a long while, he's all right. And he wasn't going to do it, he just stopped talking. You need a leader that will talk to the mainstream media. If you haven't got that, then you're not in the mainstream media, and nobody sees you. And many times I'm out there leafleting, campaigning, and they say, bloody hell, UKIP, I thought you lot had gone. Because that's what they think we're finished. They think we're no longer, it's packed up, it's gone on. But, we've got to get back out there, and we've got to get on the media, and the only way that you're going to speak on media is talking common sense to people and getting policies that they will put out there and they will talk to. We've got to be mainstream media again. We've got to get out there, and if the leader of the party is refusing to do it, I'm sorry, you're finished.
It is important to get on the mainstream media, but when you go on the mainstream media, don't apologise. We're UKIP. We're not apologising for anything. Look at our manifesto. I don't apologise for a word in it.
On the mainstream media and apologised, it would have been something. He never even went on it. He refused.
Okay, can we move on then?
We've just got to win, and we must be smart in order to win. And that means we must think, plan, and act, and do so with courage and conviction. And then they will have to speak to us, because we will dictate the agenda there. But if we just give in, then we are finished. We cannot allow ourselves to be ambushed again and again on the mainstream media. We have to snatch the initiative from them.
Stuart, I'm doing these first, if it's okay, and I'll come back to the audience.
I think he wants to ask something about this.
Oh, do you?
Probably directed at
Farage has the centre ground. You're not going to get that back. You're not going to get that back. It's gone.
Farage is very, very good at what he does, and there's nobody better on the media than Nigel. He's absolutely brilliant. He's a shyster, he's a snake oil salesman.
Yes, you know what it is. You need to be attacking this man. Do you know what we did?
Oh, we do.
We made a mistake here. We gave him a free ride, right? UKIP took the heat for him, right? We were racist, bigots, and all the rest of it. And he got away with his media connections, right? If you have any dirt on him or anything on Farage, you need to attack him because he does it to us and he's ruthless.
This man is Teflon. This man is being investigated by Olaf in the European Union on multi-thousand pounds worth of fraud.
Keep on it, don't give in.
He gets away, it's frustrating because the man gets away with everything. We know what he's been up to. He just gets away with it. If I could pin him down, I would do it, and we've tried. And on that thing about the skinheads, the thugs, the tattooed thugs, the rest of it, I was at Westminster that day when he made that comment, right? He was at the end of the Westminster Street with us surrounded by the media making that comment. In the middle was Remainers. Down that end was Kippers. He wouldn't walk through the Remainers because he's bottomless. He's always been bottomless. He wouldn't walk through that. I walked through the Kippers, and it's people I've known for many, many years. Good people. They're not tattooed skinheaded thugs. I'm tattooed. I've got my parachute wings and I've got my commando dagger. You know, I'm a British Army thug. He would not walk through them Remainers, and he made that comment, and I wrote a letter to him. I called him a hypocrite. I call him a prat, I love everything I call. I'm off his Christmas card list, but the man is Teflon.
And I sat listening to GMTV. Right. And he described us as knuckle-dragging thugs, criminals, yeah?
Right.
And lunatics, right?
I want to answer this now on your central plan. I don't agree with going for the man, going ad hominem, because it's simply not productive. Yeah? Makes us feel good, but we don't have to feel good, we want to win. So take him on what he will not touch. He will not touch the links between immigration and a whole host of things, which include medical services. We have to time your phone call to the doctors to 1 second after 8:30 or 8 o'clock. That's preposterous. To crime, to our declining transport system, to overpressure, to all people dying in their urine on trolley. He won't touch the fact that that is linked to immigration. And that is cowardice. Now, no, he hasn't. He is not in the Brexit party. He hasn't. He's done it when he was with us in UKIP. Right now, we take the ground from him because immigration and the health service were very high, I believe, in the top 3 places on what concerns people, and crime. The link between immigration and crime is terrible. Right now, we just lost control of our borders. Look, Hadrian's Wall is just up the road from here. We need a bloody big Hadrian Wall all over the south of England right now until they can get the people working for what used to be the border agency and is now a bunch of scoundrels and scallywags who just let any toe rag in. I've said so.
What are you going to do about it? Mr. Braine, Mr. Hookem?
Let me answer the first part of the question.
We've always talked against him. I've done it in the Parliament, I've done it on TV. You know, Nigel is Nigel. Nigel has spoken about the things that Freddy was talking about. He has done that in the past, but as he said, he did it via UKIP. He's got other things to do now. He's got the Brexit party. He's got Donald Trump to look after. He's going to push the Brexit party as far as he can. Come October the 31st, Boris will do the job, and the Brexit party's finished. Nigel will toddle off to America and to Donald world, and that's where he'll go. But we've got to be open to allow all those people that join the Brexit party to come back into this party, because that's their natural home, that's where they will come to. The ones that are coming to us Some of those others, the Anne Widdicombe's and the rest of it, will just cross the floor and go straight to the Tory party where they came from. It's a Tory-like party. We're not complaining. I'm stating what will happen. I'm stating what will happen. That's what's going to happen. Yes, I'd like to know more. Thank you, Bill.
Okay.
Right,
thank you.
Thank you,
Go on, Richard. You are.
Thank you. Neil Hamilton said about Nigel Farage. Oh, let me just say, I have great respect for Nigel Farage for all he did for this party and this country in campaigning to get us our referendum and to help us win it. And I'll always be grateful to him for that. But Neil Hamilton said about Nigel that he had to be the bride at every wedding and the corpse at every funeral. I have a nickname for him, which is the Spiv Emperor. Because Nigel left this party, he could easily have resuscitated it. He could have stepped in. He could have actually joined up with all of us, all of you. We've worked hard for the same things that he's worked hard for. So why did he leave instead of taking the reins in UKIP again and turning it, putting his effort back into it and bringing it back? Why? The answer is simple. The answer is simple. He wants a fiefdom. He wants a fiefdom where he has perfect control and he is the fief. And what he does is he installs people as candidates on his say-so. And if you meet someone at dinner that he likes, he thinks, I might bestow upon them a bit of advantage. Oh look, there's some councillors over there belonging to UKIP. Are they still going? Oh, let's see what we can do to poach them. And he's poached lots of people from this party. And many of them came over to the Nigel party, having been poached, expecting all of the things they were promised, and discovered that they weren't on the list after all, and that their MEP seats weren't secure after all. And so his party, I'm afraid to say, is not a democratic structure at all. It's a bit rich me saying that, bearing in mind that Gerard Batten isn't sitting here and wasn't allowed to stand in this election. But it is still the case that you lot are going to vote, hopefully, for one of us. And we do still try to be democratic in some measure. And I hope that if you elect me, I'm going to see if I can find ways to make the NEC a bit more democratic than it has been in this. So that's it. So that's the difference. And so in other words, don't leave this party. This party's democratic. Don't be taken in by a party that is just a fiefdom. And that's the way Nigel always wanted it, and that's what it is. And probably, in the long run, that will not stand that party in good stead, because ultimately, only one man is making all the decisions.
Okay. Stuart, from your list of 8 questions, please tell me which one you like first.
I have to take you to task, Mr. Chairman, that you haven't welcomed the 3 candidates to the historic grounds of the Duchess of, what's her name? Kate Middleton. That her great-grandparents went down the pits, as many of the people here tonight, their parents and some of them actually went down the pits, and grandparents went down the pits. Gentlemen, you're in the heartland of UKIP. Never mind London, never mind the southwest or the southeast. A fantastic effort to the people in this room, and friends and members of the people in this room. Had a huge success in the local elections in Sunderland, coming second, winning 3 seats and coming second in a lot of them, in Hartlepool, Redcar, North Tyneside. We have a man here, North of Tyne, mayor elections took over 20,000 votes, really from a party that's dead and buried. My question to you, gentlemen, is, I am sick and tired of listening to a leader of this party who hasn't the strength of character to take control of an interview on mainstream media, How are you going to do it?
You may not take from the accent, but I'm a Yorkshireman, so I'm from the north as well. I'm probably the only one here that is from the north. Yes, mining communities.
What's the question?
Sorry?
What was the question? The short version of the question.
Stuart, just a short version.
The last.
How do you take control of an interview on the media?
Okay.
Like that.
So, as I said, I'm from the north. If I was a leader, the party headquarters would move north. It would come up to where I am in the north, because I believe that is where the votes are. We need to take control of the north and to the Labour votes. That's what I truly believe. That's what we need to be doing. It's always been London-centric. We need to come up north. And I'm from a fishing community, so we are on par with the miners. Two hardest jobs in the world. Big loss of life doing the jobs. So I understand where you're coming from on that. Media, as I've said before earlier tonight, I've done lots of media right across the world. America, across Europe, and with Russia today, everything. I've done a lot. I've been on it. I've been on politics lunchtime. I've done politics Sunday. I've done everything. So I've been there. You can see my track record. It's there. It's to be seen. It can be looked at. You know, I've got nothing to be ashamed of. I've been there, done it, and seen it.
You win media interviews by winning them. Simple as that. You outwit them, you have courage, you stick to what's right, you make concessions when needed, but briefly, you correct them in their errors, because they have their bias against us based on their fear of us, and their fear that we're actually talking the truth, not the truth that the BBC makes up each morning when they decide how to spin the news. The BBC isn't the only enemy. There are a whole lot of broadsheet newspapers and red tops as well, and of course there's Sky and plenty of others. Now, I honestly believe that the word media nowadays, as applied to the mainstream media, is actually a singular noun, because they act as if they're just one. We treat them as if they're just one, not multiple. So the media refers to one monolithic group who are absolutely dedicated to distorting the news, to making up the news, to dictating the agenda, to twisting it to their benefits, and not to give us a fair crack at the whip. So you want a leader who will actually take them on and beat them at it, catch them at it. When they're doing it, say, stop, stop. That's where you're going wrong. That's what you've just said is inaccurate. Or why have you left this out? And not let them dictate the agenda. Once they do it, they've got you on the road. Now, it's quite hard to do this first. It's increasingly easy when you start getting them scared of us. With me as a leader, they would be scared. I've stopped getting the media calls now, entirely. They simply don't want to take it on if they're going to lose. Currently, unfortunately, Gerard has not been the most effective person. He's a good man of integrity, but he has not done himself or the party a service. He wouldn't come to the Hustings, which I organised for him in London, or other ones. I believe he has fought for us and for Britain for 27 years. He's now possibly just tired. I don't speak to him or promise to speak for him. I will always speak up for him. But he needs to move aside and not try to control the narrative anymore. We need a fresh face and a fresh start who will win. Win with the media, stop them winning. This can only be done by out-talking them, something which is easy for me, and outsmarting them, which I will humbly attempt to do. The most important thing to remember is that you're actually trying to speak to your audience. Don't waffle. Answer the question. Don't retreat, and call a spade a spade. I may be a southerner, but I understand
first can I just say an apology? I think I might have went a little bit too strong with Mike there before. And hats off to you. I didn't realise you were an ex-veteran. Veteran, sorry. I've got a couple more questions for you, but we'll have to leave that for the time being. But
this one starts.
Where's the target audience?
UKIP's target.
I know where my question is, Richard. You're not a teacher. Where do you see UKIP's target audience in terms of recruiting membership?
All over, from the young to the old. Our message is the same. Our message is we want to live in a country where we are safe against crime, where we are happy, where we are prosperous. The economy is important, where there are social values which matter. We can pass on clear messages to our children without cultural Marxism and other things taking over and trying to teach 5-year-olds about 43 genders or other bits of just complete nonsense and twaddle which they've made up. We want to have a country which is great in the world again. We want all these things, and we want a UKIP that delivers this. Anyone who wants any of those things is a potential target audience of UKIP. We've got to persuade them about this, and we persuade them with words, not with throwing brickbats, or for that matter, throwing bouquets. We do it by being popular, accurate, funny occasionally, and brave. And we can do this. Give us the tools in UKIP and we will finish the job. Ideas like this make our appeal universal in the UK, so I do not see any particular group. I was asked on Islam TV, no one else would take this up. Islam TV wanted to ask me, why would this was actually their accent, it was very insulting, why would any Muslim vote for your party? They delivered exactly that. I smiled and I said, because the Muslim, being intelligent, would want his children to be happy, he would want to be prosperous, he'd want to be safe, he'd want to be in a country where law applied to all. That's why he would vote for UKIP. Are you, sir, a racist? That's what I answered. That's our appeal. Our appeal includes the many, many millions of Muslims. There are about 5 to 6% of the population. We're not discriminating, and this is common ground between all the candidates here. I'm not speaking for myself. We're not discriminating on race, religion, or any of these other things. We are talking about values, improving life, not just for us, but for our children and grandchildren, and setting out core values which are important. I'm a physicist. Richard has told you, as he is. I'm a physicist too, and bringing up my daughter, physics is all about measuring things. And I told my daughter that all the most important things in the world are things you can't measure. The things you feel inside. That sort of society, where people think that way, is a society filled with potential UKIP voters. And we just need to get that message across. We will. Thank you.
Our target audience, it used to be the love that dare not speak its name used to mean something else. But now it means patriotism. Our target audience are people who love Britain and who love Britain's traditions.
Yeah.
That's us. We need to make Orwell fiction again. But nobody's talked about how specifically you can actually reach that target audience. And I have actually written some software for the party, free of charge, and used it at a local election 2 months ago. And the software enables people to go around, canvass effectively, tell effectively on polling day, and go and knock on doors in the evening to get our voters out. And after polling day, it means that we've learned a lot about who actually wants to vote for us. And that's going to put us in touch with people that want to support us, that want to join us, will help to grow the party again. So that's the solution. It's a technical thing. I'm going to provide it. It's especially easier for me to provide it if I'm the leader of the party, so I won't have to argue with all the others about whether we should do it or not. You won't have to argue with me. That's easy. The Orwell fiction again was my.
Get down, Mike, off him.
about going out there, and again, I say one of our main targets should be the labour areas of the north, because I think we can do very, very well there. But it's getting the policies, again, it's policies, getting the policy that people will vote for and will support, and we are a party that can do that. We're a party that when we are good, we're bloody good. You know, and if we can get out there and convince the people out there that we are a party for them, they will come to us and they will join us, whatever it is. You know, in the past we've had Liberals, we've had Conservatives, we've had Labour, we've had a lot. They've all come to us because they've seen us as a party that they can work with, they can defend, they can go out there and canvass and lead for. And I think we can do that again. We can appeal to everybody. And if we can do that, if we manage that, we will be an electoral threat once again.
Thank you. I have a question here from Ian Howes, who's asked me to put it forward for him. He is in the audience, who's asked me to read it out. It's essentially the same question from Stephen Buick and Stephen Bailey. So if you two gentlemen don't mind, I'll roll it into one to save repetition. The question is being to ask whether the panel believe the removal of Gerard at such a late stage and in such a way that the winner's authority, the winner of this election's authority, would be seriously diminished and unable to function with confidence.
I think in the case of Mike or Freddy, that may well be true, but I've asked Gerard to be my deputy. So at least if you elect me to be the leader, Gerard certainly will be listened to very carefully by me and have plenty of authority in our dealings. So don't worry about that. It's unfortunate that it's had to be like this. I'm not responsible for that. I've done my best to support Gerard in every way I could, but in the end, they wouldn't let him stand.
Look, this was I can say that all of the candidates, and Ben and Helena when they was here, had nothing whatsoever to do with it, because there is rumours that we was in the room ticking the box. None of us had anything whatsoever to do with it. It was a very tough decision taken by the NEC that you people voted for. It was a democratic decision by them within the room. There was some for, some against. So it was democratically done. I've always supported the NEC. I will support the NEC. And you've got to remember that the NEC are directors of this. This is a company. They are the directors, and if you sue the company, you sue these people. So they've got to look and make sure that what's happening within the party is legally and it's a sound decision. They made that decision, very tough decision. Piers Woolcock has had a lot of stick off it, and I think that's totally wrong. The man shouldn't be given the grief that he's getting. It was a decision taken by them, and I stand by that decision.
Gerard Barton has been a friend for 6 or 7 years now. He's been my MEP for 15 years. I respect and admire him. When I was asked what is my opinion of him as a person, I said, were my daughter to be a teenager again, and I, for some reason, had to leave her with a leader of UKIP for a week when I was away or incapacitated, it would be a no-brainer who I would leave her with, and that would be Gerard Barton. Now, that's a personal matter for all of those of you who are parents. You'd understand the reason for me choosing that. I would continue, as leader, I would continue to consult and speak to Gerard, of course. It's an absolute no-brainer. So I've taken the decision not to give any declarations about who I would appoint under my leadership, other than in fact in the case of Richard, who I would put in charge of a lot of electronic communication and design and so on. That's simply because I'm his regional chairman in London, and I know how good he is on that. We also have overlapping skills here, and there's no point having two people doing the same job. A ship has to have one captain here, though. Under me, I have not said who would be the deputy leader, or indeed who would be the chairman. I would choose the people best suited for the job, because it starts leading to corruption when you don't. I'm afraid that's often the first slippery step. There is no reflection on either candidate on either side of me. I'm sure they would generally share those views as well. So there is no suggestion. I would not listen to Gerard, seek his advice,
seek his counsel, maybe occasionally just slow down Freddy, which I've heard more than once, one would listen to him. So this is not a question of setting him, pushing him aside. I reiterate what has been said. None of us is responsible for that decision. It was a majority decision of 6-3. It seems to be an official leak out since no one has denied it from the NEC. 2-1 decision. I'm sorry if you don't like it. It took me entirely aback. I was astounded by it. Thank you.
Next question I have is from Daniel Stapleton. Daniel here. Where's Daniel?
Here. In the past 18 months, we've had an influx of lots of young people join the party. They came active in our branches where there wasn't any really representation before, and even stood for councillors. They were inspired to join by Carl Benjamin and Mr. Batten. They've expressed concerns from the NEC's decision and were worried about what's happening next. Quite vocal that they may leave the party. What can you say to reassure them that UKIP will still represent them?
Well, I hope they don't leave the party. I hope they see that the party is going to carry on, whichever candidate wins, and whichever direction the party takes. You know, the YIs are very important to us. You know, they are the future of this party. So I just hope that they see, you know, whichever member gets it, whichever the candidate gets it, that the party is going to carry on, and I hope they just carry on supporting the party.
I'll specifically refer to the Carl Benjamin part of it. I sat next to Carl Benjamin at dinner a few days ago. I've had many happy conversations with him. We have a suitably competitive relationship. He likes excelling. He's a natural public speaker. I think it'd be crazy to lose him. He is more than willing to. In fact, he said he looks. I suspect that this has a lot to do with his viewer count. Some of you may remember an impromptu interview I gave outside Parliament. When walking around, I saw Carl Benjamin there. Gerard and Lord Pearson had just spoken. I butted in and I gave him 3 minutes, which gave him something like 500,000 views it got to, where I ended with, and now turn off the cameras and I'll tell you what I really think. We need people like him who will inspire young people. He reminds me of me as I was maybe, it seems like 200 years ago, but say 30 years ago. He's full of energy, he's full of bounce, he's got a lot of courage, he sometimes gets it wrong, he's got an absolutely charming smile, he's very, very hard to face, and he and I are probably going to have a debate in 2 or 3 days on whether freedom of speech has limits. Callum, that's still on, isn't it? Yes, it is. Good. And then you can have some good fun. Freddy versus Carl Benjamin. My money's on me.
Well, the first thing that we need to do to keep young people interested in UKIP and our politics is listen to them. They are full of absolutely wonderful ideas, and I hope many of you have seen some of the things that they upload, things like Kipper Stream, obviously Carl Benjamin. There's loads of things on YouTube. Young UKIPers are actually publishing amazing material, fascinating material, great conversation. So we need to listen to them, and we need to give them responsibility. We need to give them roles in the party, and YI does that very well. But we also need, above all, to form what I talked about earlier, the Boomer Millennial Alliance. It skips a generation. The generation between the youngsters in the party and the older people in the party, they're a lost generation. They just believe in a sort of Tory Blairite socialism that none of us really agrees with. But the Zoomers and the Millennials coming through, they've seen through that. They've been so indoctrinated. Good man, good man. You buck the trend. So obviously there are a few, but you know how hard it is amongst people of your own age, because you're a small minority amongst people of your own age that will talk about the sorts of things that UKIP talks about and that we all believe in. But the great thing is these youngsters coming through, they've been so abused by their propagandist teachers, teaching them all this nonsense that they're rejecting it. They're rejecting it, and they're looking to a generation above their parents' generation for the wisdom that older people have from their longer lives. And so we have to build this bridge, and the bridge is the Boomer Millennial Alliance. Zuma alliance. And it's working already, and it's going to be great. And we're going to really, really scare, I'm afraid to say, your peers, your generation, who aren't going to know what's hit them once they find that youngsters are starting to reject that politics in big numbers.
Well, that concludes all bar one of the written champion league here. If I missed anybody out, I apologise, but it appears to be all the emails I've got. So I'll ask to take them from the floor. First of all, Kay, would you get first from the floor?
Yes. There is talk, if there were to be a general election in the next few months, there is talk on radio, NBC, things like that, of pro-Brexit and anti-Brexit parties providing some sort of alliance whereby they will stand certain candidates down in some areas so as not to split the vote and such. How does each of the candidates feel about that from a UKIP perspective?
This is a difficult one because at some points we have to look at individual constituencies by constituency. In many cases it won't make a difference. Generally we're a political party. In order to be relevant we need to field candidates because we're not just fielding them for the purpose of this election, we're fielding it for the purpose of other elections. People get very angry if they don't have a box to tick. Further, how does one bargain with an entity that has no real structure? We know which entity we're talking about here. Who are we bargaining with and what will we get in return? In a general election, there is a general terror that we're going to let in Jeremy Corbyn. That is a terror that I share. Well, how much are we willing to give up in order to give in to terror? I don't want to give in to terror at all. I want us to do the right thing. Sometimes doing the right thing means temporary sacrifice for long-term gain. So in this one, I may be going against my logical self, which talks about just this election, but we need to look beforehand, because the press will have yet another thing to hit us with then. This is longer-term planning than just this election. If indeed, through some mishap, Jeremy Corbyn and those wonderful gang of North London hoodlums take over and install themselves in Downing Street, well, they'll have a few years, they might even have a full term, they might have 5 years, but then Labour will be out for 20 years. It's true that we'll have to reinvent money after that. So I'm afraid the answer is nuanced to it. My general instinct is not to give in. We do feel, because we have to look beyond the current election, because we will be told we are accepting our own irrelevance otherwise. We have to think how it will be spun against us untruthfully. We will not get any of the credit for doing the right thing. It will be interpreted as cowardice. None of us here is a coward.
Let's buckle down and take more votes from Jeremy Corbyn than we take from any other party.
I think there are going to be some deals done. I can't see the Tories doing deals with Nigel. I don't think that'll happen. I know people are talking about that. I know the Remainers are putting together a group that will maybe stand and try and win seats. So I can see them doing deals. Whether we do deals with the Brexit party, I don't think so. We're a political party, we should stand in every seat. I don't think we would get a fair crack at the whip. I think they would dictate, because they've got a lot more money than we have, they would dictate what seats they want, and they will be the better seats, the ones with the small majorities, and we would get the rubbish ones, which we ain't got a cat and hell chance of winning anyway. So I don't think we should do a deal with Nigel. I think we should stand fair and stand in the seat. But hopefully, I'm hoping against hope that we don't go into a general election. I think Boris won't want that anyway. I'm hoping we don't, because if we do, we're in stuck, because our finances are not that good. So let's hope it doesn't happen. If it does, we do what we always do, and we pull together and we try and get people into seats, and we try and pull the money together to fight those campaigns. Even if it's just, we did it years ago, we had paper candidates, just to put a name on the ballot paper. Because what people always said was, I would have voted for UKIP, but there wasn't on the ballot paper. Our name has to be on that ballot paper. And if it's just a paper candidate, then so be it. But let's hope we can, if we do have to fight that, we can get some money together to fight it. And, you know, we are the party for Brexit, and that's what the next general election will be fought on. It will be fought on the European Union and Brexit. And let's hope we can get the right candidates in the right seats and fight that and keep battling for the Brexit. Well, I honestly believe that Boris is going to do the job. I think we'll be out on October 31st. Once we're out of there, I think we'll dump Boris and get rid of him and put another Prime Minister in. But, you know, I don't think any deal, we shouldn't do any deals with Nigel. I don't trust him, never trust him. The man's a snake oil salesman. You know, we would end up with the rough end of the stick.
I have a question. Well, first of all, can I just highlight the discussion what the party's actually done with Gerald Batten? This man has got views where he's sitting tonight. The other question that I've got for you is, what's your views on what the House of Lords and MPs are trying to do to prevent the voting Brexit?
I share your disgust at what's happened. I hope I made that clear. It's disgraceful. It's not democratic, and it should be the members of this party that decide whether Gerald Batten is worthy to lead us or not the NEC. So that's that. Sorry, what was the second point? The House of Lords.
House of Lords.
Yeah. The last 3 years have been an absolute disgrace. I mean, shocking scenes in our politics in this country, with frankly a bunch of little gangsters standing in the way of what the British people have voted for. It's just a disgrace, and they've tried to dress it up as every kind of difficulty that they could imagine, and all this fake paraphernalia about Brexit. And we know from Gerald Batten's plan, he wrote 2 books on this subject, and he's been very clear always about the right way to leave. And he's been one of the best voices on this subject for a long time. And we know that we could simply have left, and if we had left, right now, I'm certain that we would be better off even than we are now. I think we'd be well on the way to recovery from the abusive relationship that countries have with Brussels. And we're not the only one, don't forget, there's several other countries that are really suffering because of this terrible Soviet-style, plutarchy, where unelected people rule over us. You know, the Parliament is voted for, but it actually has zero power to actually generate law. The Commission gets 0 votes, and our Parliament has rejected 0 EU regulations, directives that have been sent down to us. So there's just no democracy. It's a cargo cult democracy, designed to appear like a democracy when actually being nothing of the sort. And we've got to get out. It's absolutely disgraceful. And the fact that our Parliament has become a puppet to that terrible undemocratic Parliament and doesn't have the guts to actually walk away from it, even though the people have given the green light and the permission to do so, is an embarrassment and a shame to this country.
I think what this whole farce over the last 3 years has clearly shown, and let's face it, the majority of those people sitting in Westminster in 2017 stood on the platform of supporting and fighting for the people's vote of 2016. They all stood there and said, well, we will honour that people's vote, and they've all gone against it. What it clearly shows is that those people in Westminster do not represent the people of this country. What it clearly shows is the first past the post system doesn't work anymore for this country, and it has to be an alternate vote system of some description. There is a movement there, or a group now called Make Votes Count. I think as a party, we should get on board with those people and work with them to change the voting system and to an alternate vote system. We would have the Lib Dem support, the Greens support, all the small minor parties would all support that. They all want a change in the first past the post. So we need to get on board with that as well. But it clearly shows that these people don't represent us. It's an absolute disgrace that they can sit in that Parliament and do everything they can to stop Brexit. And I've seen them when I was in Brussels and Strasbourg, coming over and speaking to the people in the higher echelons of the Parliament and doing deals. And the Labour Party was right at the forefront of this, of trying to do deals to stop Brexit. They've done everything they can, everything. Theresa May basically went to Brussels and laid on her back and said, tickle my belly. That's all she did. She went there, never offered anything. It's come up this week that she never offered anything. She never offered to walk away on the WTO. If you go into a deal, you must go into that deal and say, well, yeah, I want this deal, but if you're not prepared to give me what I want, I'm prepared to walk away. She never did that. She said WTO was always off the table. It was never going to happen. So they just run rings around it. Michel Barnier was a very, very hard negotiator. I wish we'd had somebody like Michel Barnier working for us, because we'd have had a deal. We'd have been out by now. It's taken 3 years. And 3 years down the line, to say in the last 11th hour, well, we're going to start looking at what a WTO will look like. Well, surely when you start off, you say, this is what deal we want, and this is what it'll look like if we walk away on a WTO. They never did that. They went in there and just rolled over and let them do whatever they wanted. She was a terrible Home Secretary, and she was an absolute disgrace as a Prime Minister. And if they put her in the House of Lords, put Theresa May in the House of Lords, it's an absolute disgrace. The woman is a traitor to this country. And those people that support her, those people like Philip Hammond and the rest of them, that talk down this country regularly, saying how bad the country is, and we are now going, what is it today? We're going to be £30 billion worse off. Well, if we are £30 billion, we're £9 billion in the profit, because we're paying £39 billion to Brussels. So, WTO has to be on the table. I don't want to see us leave this country, leave the European Union with no deal. I want a tariff-free deal. And if we'd walked in and said, we want a tariff-free deal, and if you're not prepared to give us that, we'll walk away. If we'd have said that, if she'd have said that and I'd been tough on it, we'd have been out by now. It's an absolute disgrace. Houses of Parliament don't represent us. House of Lords is a complete joke. There's no way whatsoever that they should. We need a second house, yes, but it shouldn't be the system that they've got at the moment. You know, you've got the people like John Prescott. You'll never see me in Amy until his wife Pauline said, I want to be in there, and then he was there on Monday morning looking for the job. But you know, these are the people that represent us now in House of Lords. It's a disgrace. The politics in this country at the moment is an absolute disgrace. These people do not represent the working man and woman of this country.
That's actually a hard act to follow. John Prescott, we should be aware, has bulimia, except he's forgot the second part of it, throwing up of it. We've talked about Theresa May here. This dreadful creature was not a captain of SS Great Britain. She was, in the words of Neil Hamilton, a barnacle attached to the hull. She just went wrong. Now, only a mad woman would take no deal off the table until negotiations are over. That's just the actions of a lunatic. Perhaps a traitor as well, but definitely a lunatic, because it's obviously mad. Now, 85% approximately of votes cast in the snap general election, in the general election of 2015, 85% of votes were cast for parties that generally supported leaving the EU. Supposedly at that stage, this included the big parties. That was reflected, in 2017. Earlier on, we had won the referendum with a huge majority. The vote for one side, 17,410,741 people who voted, plus me, to make 742, who voted to leave the EU, was the largest single vote to any outcome ever held in the United Kingdom. And this lot of rotters didn't want to follow it. 80% plus of MPs approved the 29th of March as being the exit date. They knew in advance they were then going to scupper it. Now this load of scoundrels here, Ollie Robbins at least is safe, certainly very safe. Even if we were to get
retrospective legislation in, which is abhorrent to me, we shouldn't, to allow the death penalty, he certainly could not be hanged. His neck prevents it. Now, I would not certainly suggest that this is a good course of action, but this level of anger has been produced because we have been utterly and totally betrayed. Now, some of you in this room, probably not too moved by this rhetoric, but you have received emails from me where I analysed the 49 consecutive mainstream votes in Parliament on a spreadsheet attached to my email, which looked through each of them and judged each MP on his voting record. That has been used, usually within conservative local associations, to get shot of bad Conservative MPs. And here, the vast majority of Conservative MPs are bad. There's about 25 of them who voted the right way, all the rest have voted the wrong way. There was Kate Hoey who voted the right way, and the DUP, bless their souls, voted the right way all the time. And all the rest of them were rascals. They either didn't vote at all or cowards who didn't turn up. These were 49 votes analysed. On the 29th of March, when Nigel had some event in Parliament Square and Gerard was outside Downing Street, I was up in Gerrard's Cross, in fact, in Beaconsfield, making damn sure that the Conservatives' last trick to keep Dominic Grieve in by changing the venue of their meeting at the last minute from the bull to the bell, or the bell to the bull. Yes, they did that. This is to make sure that Dominic Grieve was not voted out by his local Conservative association. This, we succeeded by 180 votes to 130. His own local association voted to get rid of him as an MP. We have to take the fight to them. Hopefully now this has frightened them and they will not have a general election. These things are linked. They know lots of them will be kicked out of office and therefore they won't have it. Because we are frankly not ready as a party right now for a general election. As Mike has conceded, we are not exactly flush with readies. We need to build more before a general election comes. If it comes, we will fight it. But I prefer it if it didn't happen soon. Thank you.
Freddy, have you wrote any books? Wrote any books?
Have I, sorry?
Wrote any books? You should try.
Books have been written by me, but if
sorry, I didn't wish you to come with the second.
On line 307 of my brief CV, you'll find a list of them. In fact, that is true.
Sorry,
Freddy's CV comes in 3 volumes. It's one of the best works of fiction I've ever read.
Nonsense.
Can we just apologise because we have to leave? Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am.
See you later.
Okay, yes, sir. Yeah.
This question is maybe inspired by Mr. Braine with the it's very much directed to all three of you in this room. This question is directed, inspired mainly by Mr. Braine from his interview with Mr. Benjamin the other day, but it is very much directed to all three of you, so I want to know what your stance is on this. What is your stance regarding zero-hour contracts and the way that large businesses are very much, especially in Newcastle and this sort of like area of the country, using it to manipulate young people who are going into work?
Zero-hours contracts are an abomination. It's a completely imbalanced labour market. It's a buyer's market, not a seller's market. This is linked again to the great big elephant in the room, immigration, uncontrolled mass immigration. While it is there, you're going to have similar things, and trying to outlaw it is useless. You can't outlaw things like that because they just find ways around it using smart accountants and smart lawyers. So we must fix the underlying problem in that the labour market is completely imbalanced in terms of powers now in favour of large employers. It's not good. I am in a way, I suppose I'm selfish here. I'm glad I'm not a young person right now, but I do have a daughter who is a young person. It's completely outrageous. It's got to be stopped, and the way to stop it is build that Hadrian Wall there, get it out of the EU, and start enforcing an immigration policy that bites.
I agree with Freddy. I mean, during that interview, as I hope you will recall, I pointed out that there are some people who do like being on zero-hours contracts. It does give them a flexibility to do part-time work. So let's not pretend that everybody who's on a 0 hours contract is being manipulated or, in this way by companies that are really abusing their power in the market, as Freddy has just correctly described. But it's also important to remember that one of the reasons why companies look to these sorts of contracts, because quite often companies bear responsibilities when they employ people that are disproportionate, and labour law has become a burden to many companies, and it's important to look at how that actually is distorting the marketplace for labour. But as Freddy said, if we had our borders properly controlled and proper control of labour in this country, then I don't think it would be nearly as big a problem. People would be able to find work, and don't forget that an employment relationship is a relationship between someone who's prepared to pay you and take risk and the person who decides whether he or she wishes to be employed in that way. And that's how it should really be, an agreement between two parties, two people. So from that point of view, I don't think, I agree with you that it is abused, but you must be careful not to take away a mode of working that suits some people.
They look 0 hour contracts in Greece. They'd look 0 hour contracts in Greece because they haven't any bloody work there anyway, any kind of contract.
Yeah, I agree with Richard. There are some people, yes, that want a 0 hour contract. But I think, as Richard said, it's got to be by choice. If you want it, it's not going to be foisted on you by the employer. And it's because of mass immigration. Well, it's immigration, mass migration. Let's get that right. And, these people, 500 million people, that's what the pool that they've got to choose. And that's held down the hourly rate of many people. It's compressed that. So people are not getting the wage rise that they should be. And we can only stop that by having strong immigration laws and what I believe bringing in what we've said for a long, long time, an Australian-style immigration policy where we're bringing in the skills that we need. And let's not forget many, many Labour councils across this country use 0 hour contract. They started stopping them now, but they were big proponents of them. But we need to bring in people with the skills that we need. And I've always defended people because I've never ever believed that families, whole families sitting on social security are there by choice. Yeah, there are the rogue families that never want to work. But I think there's lots of families and lots of people to sit on social security, them, it's soul destroying. I've been on social security. Many times, when the kids were young and I've been out of work and I've been on social security. It's soul destroying. I don't believe this rhetoric that, they're all lazy and they don't want to work, so we've got to bring people in from Europe. I don't believe that. I think there are many people in this country that can take these jobs, that want these jobs. And we need to address that, and we need to stop a mass migration coming into this country. And we need to stop 0 hours. And, unless you want that, if that's what you want, if you want to be 0 hours and it suits your lifestyle, then so be it. But it shouldn't be foisted on you by an employer saying, well, it's either 0 hours or nothing.
Okay. We've had over our hour of questions. So there's just one that I said I'd hold back to the end. Written question. The last one before I asked the candidates to make their closing remarks. Came from Councillor Deputy. The question, gentlemen, is, if you don't win the leadership election, is there any of the other candidates you will not work with, and why? That's what I need. Who wants to start?
This is not original. This gets asked every night. I know Richard, I know Freddy, the other two. Well, Ben's not here now. I know them all. I've known them for quite a few years. I would work with them, yes. I would work with anyone within the party. I think we've all got the same aims of this party. We've all got the goodwill of this party at heart. And there's a lot of us and a lot of people in this room that's put many, many years into this party. So I would work with anybody. But I think, I'll just go a little bit off there. I think we've got a lot of talent within the party that we could bring on into sportsman's roles. So I think there's a lot of talent there that we should bring on. But I would work with any of them.
This thing's bigger than any one of us. To give a fuller answer, I'd liken this decision to a decision made, let's say, by one of our fighter pilots 70, 80 years ago, flying a Hurricane maybe from Biggin Hill or something like that. Maybe flying from one of the airfields up here where the Nazis used to come over from Norway, and they're relatively long-range bombers, big wing applied. Let's imagine their ankles were bitten by a dog while they were waiting there for the bell to go out. They're having their tea. They knew they had to drop everything and run for that fighter plane and get up in the air to stop the bombers before they came over. And I'm not allowed to make jokes about the Fokkers and the Fokkers and other things because Douglas Bader made it a long time ago. If that little dog, like little dogs are wont to do, snaps at your ankles and bites you, do you flounce off the field? No. The analogy here isn't comparing any of my worthy opponents here to dogs. It's the state of mind. It's absolutely not. It's only just occurred to me that some of you might think I was taking a pop, which I never would. What I am saying is what you do is kick one of them off and you just stay over there. You don't flounce off back to your open-top Rover and go back home. You stay there on the field because the battle isn't over. This is perhaps the end of the beginning phase, but it's certainly no more than that. We now have to win this completely and not leave this. So whoever wins, I would work with them without any doubt. Thank you.
Well, I've offered myself to work for the party's goals under many leaders, Bolton and Paul Nuttall, Suzanne Evans, Diane James, Steve Crowther, and of course even Nigel Farage. And so I obviously feel the same way as Freddy and Mike. So what Mike said, what Freddy said, I will work for the party whoever wins.
Just in case you want something to leave. Freddy's not reading his book, is he? Right, let's call on the candidates to finish the evening with a 2-minute narration of why you should vote for them as leader, and a person who's in reverse order to how we started the evening. So that's on. So you're first on this time. 2 minutes.
2 minutes, starting now. Right, if I am looking up to be elected as leader, you know what my vision is for this party, is to become an electoral threat to the rest of the parties. Those Tories, Labour, who's had it good for too long. As a leader, I would bring in reform within the party, a structural reform, a party that's led from the bottom upwards, and the membership have a say in what goes on and how the party is led. And I would reform the NEC. The NEC would become a regional NEC. You've seen the policies I've got there, and I've said from the very start of this that this party needs to change. It needs to change direction, and it needs to get common sense policies. We need to be out there on the street fighting with common sense policies, the policies that people will vote for. People will vote for us if we're out there talking common sense. I believe I'm the person that can do that. I've seen from every angle of the party, every senior position, how the party runs. I know where it needs changing, and I will change it, and I can do that. And if you vote for me, that is what will happen, I can promise.
Right. If you vote for me, then one of the first things that's going to happen is we're going to see tools provided to party members to actually get the job done of trying to win elections, local and constituency elections. You're going to see forum policy, you're going to see policy forum, which everybody is going to be able to participate in. And you will be able to vote on policies in that forum. They will be presented in front of the NEC and the leader every month, so that what you say, what you want to happen in the party, will actually be seen and taken in by the leadership of the party. team if that happens, and we will actually start to claw back our results in elections. What's that going to feel like? In the end, if we get up to 10% again, it's going to start to feel like the good old days. I want you to cast your minds back to midnight on the 23rd of June 2016, and what it felt like at those counts. Probably some of you were at the count for the referendum, and some of you may have got up the next morning to look at the result in amazement. I certainly didn't expect us to win, but I worked so hard at it because I was determined to be able to look at myself in the mirror in the morning and say I did everything that I could for my country. I gave it every chance to actually regain its independence. So remember that feeling of winning. That's what we're aiming for. That's what we can achieve again. It's going to take time and hard work, but I will actually give you the tools to do it and improve our vote share and get there.
Due to who I'll appoint, when I'm in the leadership, you get Richard Software too, and Richard too. I ran a computer software house and produced 150 programs. It's called Digital Precision. You looked, it was one of the most successful UK software houses that was. It was entirely, I started from scratch. Computer software is a very important means in the future, because nowadays with handheld devices and gadgets, we've got things in our hands which are a lot cleverer than we are in many, many ways. However, that is just one of the aspects. There's much more to winning this battle than just with computer software, important though it is. And I'm fully in favour of it. It'd be astounding if I wasn't. I'm a physicist and a mathematician. I'm analytical in my approach. I'm an accountant as well. I did train with Ernst & Young. I'm good with numbers. I can bandy them as fast as the scoundrels and blackguards in the BBC who try to prepare some sort of hidden question and agenda. I'll see through their stuff. But that isn't really the most important thing. The most important thing is heart. And in matters of heart, let me tell you the first Hustings I attended. It was in the southwest, and fortuitously perhaps, I had to wait to upload my application. The hourglass was going round and round, and I had to rush off to Thanet to meet somebody, not Nigel Farage, about funding for UKIP and whether or not they would be prepared to fund if I won the leadership. Then I had to drive over from Thanet, which is in the extreme southeast of the country, right? Not to Land's End, but to far along in the west, Tiverton in Devon. It meant that as I was driving along A303, the road that has Stonehenge on its right, as we all know, where people all slow down to have a peep, as I came out of the Stonehenge area, maybe 15 miles further west, I hit the road at just the right time. The sun was coming through trees, and my eyes filled with tears. I've told this story before, so my fellow candidates are probably fed up hearing it, but for you it's new. I had to stop the car, and this is really true, you know, because it reminded me what we're fighting for, a Britain that, this Jerusalem, it's not a religious statement here. We've got to fight for it, we've got to win, we have to do it, there's no one else. Make me the leader. I have the will, I have the power, and I have the determination, I have the courage, I have maybe the stupidity as well to take on this task. As my mum used to say, that there's no sense, there's no feeling. Thank you. Please give me a
Ladies and gentlemen, you've been a great audience. I think we've had some great questions, some very testing questions, and some very good answers. Can I ask you all to give one final round of applause to our candidates? I'm sure they're not rushing away, so if you want to pigeonhole someone at the bar, that would be great. A couple of things. I'd like to say a big thank you to the Secretary of the Hetton and District Working Men's Club and to the committee for allowing us to use this wonderful facility at no charge. So I hope you've all bought lots of drinks because it's been very, very good of them. I'm sure you'll agree it's an excellent venue.
And Julie.
And Julie, yes, of course, the barmaid, wherever she's gone. Where is she? She's still there? Thank you, Julie. Sterling job. Now don't go anywhere, because this young techno freak here is dying to play with a new machine to find out who's won the lottery prizes. So that's all from me, but now over to the boss, Mr. Hopper, here are.
What a point, Smith!
Prizes! Thank you.
Talk about the script.
Let them just choose what they want. Just choose what they want.
Oh.
I think you know is how many.
How many?
So,
How many prizes have
I'm
we got?
at the North East Hustings for the UKIP leadership, and I'm just asking each individual leadership candidate one question. So, Mike Hookem, if you become leader of UKIP, where do you see UKIP in 5 years' time?
In 5 years' time, I found the leader. What I would fight for and strive for and hopefully achieve would be a more democratic party, a more bottom-up party. That means a membership having a say and more of a voice in there. But it would also be an electoral threat once again. It would be a party that can go out there and fight and win elections. And we have to start from the bottom up. We have to start at local elections and win those local elections to work our way back up. The Lib Dems did this. The Lib Dems was absolutely dead in the water. They started winning local elections again and then getting into Westminster. That's what I want to see. I want to see a democratic party. I want to see a complete restructure of the party hierarchy, and I want to see an electoral threat, a party that can win elections and a party that we can be proud to go out on the streets and talk to the people wearing the UKIP rosette and be proud of that and be proud to be winning seats once again.
Okay, Mike Hookem, thank you very much. So I'm with Richard Braine now. He's one of the leadership candidates in the North East Hustings tonight, and I'm just asking each one of them one simple question. Richard Braine, if you become the UKIP leader, where do you see UKIP in 5 years' time?
In 5 years' time, I seriously hope that UKIP is a party represented in the British Parliament. I hope that we have many MPs and that those MPs are making a case for the views of UKIP members and supporters and voters. It's not impossible. If you look at the history of the Labour Party, it had ups and downs when it first came into being, and then suddenly it became a party of government, which was a great surprise at the beginning of the 20th century, and that can happen to parties. It can happen to UKIP, and one of the reasons why I think it will happen to UKIP is because of our policies, our political philosophy, our patriotism, and our belief in this country and in freedom, and the freedom that this country has shown to the world.
Okay, Richard Braine, thank you very much. So, once again, we're in the leadership hustings in the northeast leg, and I have Freddy Vachha here, who is one of the leadership candidates. And as I've just asked both of your other competitors, Freddy Vachha, if you became UKIP leader, where do you see UKIP in 5 years' time?
I see us in high places. I see you asking me the same question 5 years from now, except it'll be asked at Strangers' Bar in the House of Commons, and I'll have invited you in, because we'll have a lot of power, and we deserve to have that power because we have responsibility. We were right on all the major issues. We may have got distracted, we may have gone wrong, at least wrong in our approach, wrong in our prioritization, or at least how it's portrayed. We allowed our numerous enemies, including those in the mainstream media, to get the upper hand. None of this will happen. None of this will be allowed to continue under me. We will beat them. We'll beat them at their game. We know what it is. We know what it is very, very well. We're going to ensure that we win, and we keep on winning. Now, let's equate this to a war, but please understand I'm speaking entirely figuratively, not literally. The duty of a soldier is not to die for his country, but to make some other poor dumb bastard die for his country. And that is, in fact, what we will do. We will make sure that the sacrifices are made by the Labour Party, and by the Conservative Party, and by the Democratic Party, and by the Green Party, if they still exist, and by any other minor party which I might have it may have slipped my memory, in some light turquoise blue one. All of them, they will be dying for their particular causes, but we'll be living and we'll be surviving and we'll be there in power. That is the objective, and it sounds a tall order right now, but we have arisen phoenix-like in the past. We shall do so again. Our hearts are in the right place and our minds are focused on what we need to do. The referendum is due to us, thanks to us, entirely due to us. No one else was there to help. We have done it, we've done it before, we will do it again. I will strive to make UKIPers proud to be UKIP. I will strive to bring back into UKIP those who felt they could no longer be among us. Thank you.
Okay, Freddy Vachha, thank you very much.